Many people today feel like they are running on empty. There is a quiet pressure in the air that never goes away. It comes with the constant need to perform, to achieve, to prove something, even when no one is watching. Life becomes a race with no finish line. At night, the body is exhausted, but the mind refuses to rest. Thoughts keep spinning, questions keep circling, and worries keep returning. Why am I not happy yet? Why does it feel like something is always missing? Why does peace seem so far away? These questions create a weight that many carry in silence, a weight that slowly drains the joy from ordinary days. We search for answers in many directions. Some people run toward success, believing that the right job, the right salary, or the right recognition will finally bring relief. Others chase love and relationships, hoping that being understood will quiet the storm inside. Many turn to distractions, entertainment, shopping, scrolling through endless screens, only to find that the quiet emptiness returns as soon as the distraction ends. Even when life looks full from the outside, inside there is often a quiet ache, a sense that something deeper is missing. This is the silent pain of modern life. It is not always dramatic, but it is persistent, and it shapes the way we see ourselves and the world. But what if the peace we are searching for is not something we have to chase? What if it is already here, hidden beneath the noise, waiting to be uncovered? Ancient teachings speak of a freedom that is not dependent on success or failure, not tied to praise or blame, not shaken by gain or loss. It is a freedom that rests in awareness itself, in the clear and open space of the heart. This is the wisdom of the Buddha, offered not as a religion to follow blindly, but as a living path for anyone who longs to breathe more freely, to suffer less, and to love more deeply. These teachings are like a gentle lamp in a dark room. They do not demand, they invite. They do not add weight, they lift it away. Our time together is not about memorizing complicated ideas. It is about listening with the heart, seeing with new eyes, and remembering what we may have forgotten about ourselves. Each story, each reflection, is designed to touch both the pain of our current struggles and the possibility of healing. Together we will look at stress, money worries, broken relationships, hidden anxiety, and other burdens that modern life places on our shoulders. And alongside these struggles, we will open the door to timeless solutions, mindfulness, compassion, letting go, and the deep understanding of interconnection. These are not abstract theories. They are practical keys that can unlock a lighter, freer way of living. Imagine what it would feel like to finally put down the heavy backpack you have been carrying, to walk through a day without being pushed and pulled by every thought or emotion, to face challenges without drowning in fear or anger. This is not a fantasy. It is possible. It begins the moment we decide to see differently, to loosen our grip, to open our hearts. Tonight, you and I will walk through 10 doorways, each one opening to a part of life where suffering is common, and each one revealing how Buddhist wisdom can shine a light into the darkness. As the path unfolds, the stories will weave together into a larger truth, that peace is not found in running faster, but in stopping long enough to recognize who we really are. So let us begin. There is a moment in almost every modern life when stress feels like it owns the day. It begins early, sometimes before the sun has risen, when the alarm sounds and the body tenses. Before even stepping out of bed, the mind is already racing. The list of things to do, the deadlines, the bills, the conversations that need to be had. Stress is like a quiet storm that moves in without asking permission. It does not shout at first. It whispers. It whispers that you are behind, that you are not ready, that there is more waiting than you can handle. And then, as the hours pass, the whisper grows louder until it feels like every breath is heavy and every step is rushed. Stress shows itself in many forms. For some, it feels like a knot in the stomach. For others, it is a pressure in the chest or a restless energy that never fades. Some people feel it as irritability, snapping at loved ones for no reason. Others feel it as exhaustion, dragging themselves through the day with no spark left. Stress is not only a mental weight, it is physical. It wears down the body, shortens patience, and weakens joy. It pushes people into patterns of survival, where the goal becomes only to make it to the end of the day, not to truly live. In this state, it is easy to forget who we are and what matters most. The modern world makes stress almost unavoidable. We live in a culture that praises constant motion. Productivity is often measured by how busy we are, not by how present we are. There is pressure to perform, pressure to provide, pressure to keep up with everyone else. Social media adds to the noise, showing perfect images of lives that seem effortless while hiding the struggles that exist behind the scenes. Comparing ourselves to others feeds the cycle of stress, whispering again and again that we are falling short. No matter how much we achieve, there is always more waiting, always another goal that promises peace but never delivers it. Think about the last time you told yourself, "Once I finish this project, I will relax." Or, "Once I pay off this bill, I will breathe easier." Or, "Once I lose this weight, once I move to a new place, once I find the right partner, then I will be happy." How often did that moment of peace actually arrive? Most of the time, the finish line simply moved further away. One problem solved gave birth to two more. The relief was temporary at best, like drinking salty water when you are thirsty. The cycle repeats because stress is not simply created by circumstances. It is rooted in the way the mind clings, the way it resists, the way it insists that life must be different than it is right now. In Buddhist wisdom, stress is seen not as a personal failure, but as a sign of misunderstanding. We believe stress comes from the outside, from the boss, the bills, the deadlines. But ancient teachings invite us to look closer. The pressure does not live in the event itself. It lives in our relationship to the event. Imagine two people stuck in traffic. One is gripping the wheel, cursing, sweating, convinced that this delay is ruining everything. The other turns on the radio, breathes, and accepts that traffic is part of life. The cars are the same. The road is the same. The only difference is the mind. One mind resists and suffers. The other mind allows and finds space. Stress is born not from what happens, but from how we meet what happens. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we cling and resist, when we demand that life fit into the shape we prefer. Stress is the child of this clinging. We cling to control, wanting everything to follow our plan. We cling to comfort, wishing pain or challenge would never touch us. We cling to identity, needing to appear strong, successful, or in control, even when we feel fragile inside. Each time reality refuses to obey these demands, stress grows. It is like pulling on a rope in a tug-of-war with the universe. The harder we pull, the more tension we create. The rope burns our hands, yet we keep pulling, believing we must win. But what if peace is not in pulling harder, but in loosening our grip? One way to see stress clearly is to picture the mind as a glass of water. When life shakes the glass, the water becomes cloudy with dirt and sand. We cannot see clearly, and everything feels urgent, overwhelming, and unsettled. But if we place the glass down and wait, the dirt slowly sinks to the bottom, and the water becomes clear again. Stress is what happens when we never put the glass down. We keep shaking it with worry, with fear, with endless thinking. But when we stop, when we allow the mind to rest even for a moment, clarity returns. This is the power of mindfulness. It does not remove challenges from life. It clears the water so we can see them without panic and then respond with wisdom. There is a practice in Buddhism called mindful breathing. It is simple but profound. We do not need incense or robes or special music. We only need the breath we already have. When we feel stress rising, we turn attention to the inhale and the exhale. We notice how the body feels as the air enters and leaves. We let the breath be an anchor, steady and constant, while thoughts swirl around like passing clouds. At first, the mind resists. It wants to keep running, but slowly, with patience, the breath becomes a safe harbor. Stress does not disappear instantly, but its grip softens. We realize that in this single breath, we are safe. In this single breath, we are alive. In this single breath, nothing is missing. Imagine being in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, the rain pours, the thunder shakes the sky. But deep beneath the ocean, the water is calm, steady, and untouched. Mindful breathing takes us beneath the storm of thoughts and emotions into that calm depth. It shows us that stress is like weather, temporary, shifting, never permanent. We learn not to fear the storm, but to anchor ourselves beneath it, trusting that it will pass. This is not escape, it is strength. It is choosing to live from the depth, not the surface. When we practice this way, stress transforms. Instead of being a heavy chain around our neck, it becomes a teacher. It points out where we are clinging, where we are resisting, where we are demanding life to be different. Each time stress arises, we can ask, what am I holding on to? What expectation, what fear, what story am I feeding? And in that asking, the grip loosens. We see that we do not have to carry every thought as if it were true. We do not have to follow every fear as if it were real. Stress can remind us to return to the breath, to the body, to the present. In that return, peace is already waiting. This is the beginning of freedom from stress. Not the freedom of having a perfect life, but the freedom of seeing clearly. Not the freedom of controlling everything, but the freedom of no longer needing to. Stress may knock on the door again and again, but we learn not to invite it in for dinner. We learn to bow to it, to thank it for showing us our attachments, and then to let it pass. This is how ancient wisdom enters modern life, quietly, gently, like a candle lighting a dark room. It shows us that peace is possible right here, right now, in the middle of everything, if we only know where to look. When stress is left unchecked, it becomes more than a passing storm. It turns into a climate that shapes an entire life. Many people today live in a constant state of tension without even realizing it. Shoulders are tight, jaws are clenched, and sleep is shallow. Even when the body rests, the mind keeps racing. This state of being has been normalized so deeply that we call it just the way life is. But it is not the way life has to be. Stress is not a permanent condition. It is a pattern that can be seen, understood, and released. Consider how animals live in the wild. When a deer senses danger, its body fills with energy. The muscles tighten, the heart pounds, and the breath quickens. The deer runs until it is safe, and then, when the danger has passed, its body naturally returns to calm. The stress cycle completes. In human life, the problem is that the danger never seems to end. The body prepares to run, but there is nowhere to go. The bills are still there, the deadlines remain, the memories of past hurts continue, and the imagination of future fears never stops. Our stress cycle rarely closes. The body is left flooded with tension, the mind restless, and the heart weary. The wisdom of the Buddha shows us how to complete this cycle not by running away, but by turning inward. One teaching describes the mind like a monkey swinging from branch to branch, never still. This restless jumping is exactly what stress feels. Like the mind leaps into the past, replaying mistakes, and then swings into the future, imagining worst-case scenarios. Rarely does it rest on the branch of the present moment. But what if we could gently guide the monkey back to the tree, letting it sit quietly, even for a short while? Mindfulness is the way we train the monkey. Each time we bring attention back to the breath, back to the body, we are teaching the monkey to pause. Slowly, the mind learns that peace is possible in stillness. Stress loses its fuel when the monkey stops swinging. Another story tells of a farmer whose horse ran away. The neighbors came and said, "What bad luck." The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned with 2 wild horses. The neighbors said, "What good luck." Again, the farmer replied, "Maybe." Later, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses and broke his leg. The neighbors cried, "Such bad luck." Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." Soon after, soldiers came to the village to recruit young men for war. But because the son's leg was broken, he was spared. The neighbors praised the farmer's fortune, and again he replied, "Maybe." This story reveals the heart of stress. We label events quickly, calling them good or bad, fortune or disaster. Then we cling to those labels, and stress follows. But when we pause, when we hold life lightly, we see that everything is changing. What seems terrible today may carry a hidden gift. What seems wonderful today may bring challenges tomorrow. Stress weakens when we stop clinging to fixed judgments and allow life to unfold. The Buddha called this wisdom equanimity, the ability to stay balanced in the face of both gain and loss, pleasure and pain, praise and blame. Stress thrives when we are pulled too hard in either direction. We chase after pleasure and fight against pain, and in this chase we are never still. Equanimity teaches us to stand steady, like a mountain that remains unmoved by the passing clouds. The clouds change, shape and color, but the mountain remains. When we cultivate this steady heart, stress loses its grip. We no longer live like a small boat tossed by every wave. We live like the mountain, rooted and strong, no matter what comes. One practical way to touch this wisdom is through body awareness. Stress often lives in the body before we even notice it in the mind. The shoulders tighten, the breath shortens, the stomach knots. If we can pause and bring kind attention to these signals, we create space before the mind turns them into stories of panic. A simple practice is to scan the body slowly, noticing where tension hides and breathing gently into those places. Instead of resisting the tightness, we meet it with compassion. Like a parent comforting a crying child, we comfort the body with breath and presence. Often, the simple act of noticing is enough for the body to soften, for stress to release its hold. Compassion is not only for the body, but also for the heart. Many people blame themselves for being stressed. They say, "I should be stronger. I should handle this better." These thoughts only add another layer of pressure. But Buddhist teaching reminds us that suffering is part of being human. To feel stress is not a weakness. It is a sign that we are alive, sensitive, and caring. When we meet our stress with kindness instead of judgment, it begins to transform. Compassion allows us to rest. It gives us permission to breathe without needing to prove anything. And when we extend this compassion to others, we see that stress is not only our burden. It is a shared human struggle. In this recognition, we feel less alone. Imagine being in a crowded city where everyone is rushing, horns are blaring, and the air feels heavy. Now imagine stepping into a quiet park. The noise fades, the air feels lighter, and the body naturally relaxes. This is what compassion does inside the heart. It creates a park within the city of stress. It does not erase the noise outside, but it gives us a place of rest within. From this place, we can meet challenges with more patience, more clarity, and more love. As we practice mindfulness, equanimity, and compassion, stress begins to shift. What once felt like a wall blocking our path becomes a doorway. Instead of saying, "This stress is ruining me," we can say, "This stress is showing me where I am clinging." Each stressful moment becomes a chance to wake up, to return to the present, to remember the breath. Slowly, stress turns from an enemy into a teacher, guiding us toward freedom. This is not easy, and it does not happen overnight. But each small step matters. Each breath is a victory. Each moment of awareness is a seed planted in the soil of peace. The beauty of these teachings is that they do not require us to withdraw from life. We do not have to leave our families, our jobs, or our responsibilities. We practice right where we are, in the middle of daily life. Washing dishes can become a meditation. Driving to work can become a chance to breathe deeply. Listening to a friend can become an act of presence instead of distraction. Each ordinary moment becomes a chance to meet stress with awareness and transform it into clarity. In this way, spiritual practice is not separate from life. It is life itself, lived more fully, more gently, more freely. And so, as we close this first doorway on our journey, we see that stress is not a life sentence. It is a messenger. It asks us to look closely at how we live, how we cling, and how we resist. It asks us to slow down, to breathe, and to trust that peace is possible. The path of mindfulness and compassion does not erase challenges, but it changes the way we carry them. We no longer live as prisoners of stress. We live as students of wisdom, learning from each moment and opening to the freedom that has always been here. As we step forward, another burden of modern life waits to be explored. Just as stress weighs on the body and mind, the struggle with money weighs on the heart. Money promises security, but often delivers worry. It promises freedom, but often creates fear. The next doorway opens to this common pain, and with it, the same timeless light will shine. For if stress can be transformed, so too can the fear of not having enough. Money is one of the most powerful forces in modern life. It is both a tool and a trap. On the surface, it is simple. We work, we earn, we spend. But beneath this surface, money is loaded with meaning. It carries the weight of security, status, freedom, and self-worth. In many ways, money has become the language through which society measures success. And because of this, money often becomes a source of deep anxiety, endless striving, and hidden shame. For some people, it is the fear of not having enough. For others, it is the pressure to keep what they have or to prove themselves by gaining more. No matter where we stand on the scale of wealth, the struggle around money can be relentless. Think about the number of hours people spend worrying about bills, debt, retirement, or medical costs. Entire lives are shaped by the pursuit of financial safety. We tell ourselves, if I just reach this number in the bank, I will finally feel secure. Yet the line keeps moving. Even those who achieve great wealth often speak of the same fear. What if it disappears? What if it is not enough? This reveals a truth that is uncomfortable to face. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy the absence of fear. It can provide temporary relief, but it cannot erase the root of insecurity. That root lives not in the wallet, but in the mind. Modern culture fuels this insecurity by teaching us that our value is tied to what we own. Advertisements whisper constantly that happiness is for sale, that fulfillment is waiting in the next purchase, that peace is hidden inside the next luxury. These messages are powerful. They shape our desires, often without us realizing. They make us believe that without more, we are less. This is the trap. We measure ourselves not by the kindness in our hearts, not by the depth of our love, but by the numbers in our account and the objects in our homes. And no matter how much we gather, the hunger remains. It is like drinking salt water again and again, thirsting for a relief that never arrives. Buddhist wisdom offers a different perspective. The Buddha spoke often about craving, calling it a fire that burns without end. Craving is not limited to wealth, but money is one of its most visible forms. We crave security, we crave status, we crave the feeling of being enough. But the truth is that no amount of external gain can satisfy a craving that is rooted in emptiness. It is like trying to fill a bottomless hole. The more we pour in, the deeper it seems to get. The path of freedom begins not by denying money's role, but by seeing clearly that money is only a tool. It cannot define who we are. It cannot touch the essence of our being. When we see this clearly, the fire begins to cool. Consider the story of a monk who owned a simple bowl. This bowl was his only possession, and he used it each day to eat. One morning, the bowl cracked. At first, the monk felt sorrow. How would he eat? What would he do? But then he remembered the teaching of impermanence. Everything in life changes. Nothing lasts forever. He realized the bowl had served him well, and now its time was over. He thanked the bowl, placed it aside, and continued his day with peace. Contrast this with the way many of us relate to our possessions. A crack in the car, a scratch on the phone, a drop in the bank account. These small changes can create outsized suffering. Why? Because we cling. We believe our peace is tied to the condition of things that are, by nature, temporary. This is why the teaching of impermanence is so powerful. It shows us that everything, wealth, possessions, even the body itself, will change. When we resist this truth, we suffer. When we accept it, we are free. Impermanence does not mean we cannot enjoy money or comfort. It means we learn not to cling to them as if they were permanent sources of identity. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you grip too tightly, it slips through your fingers. If you hold gently, you can feel its presence without losing it. Money is the same. Clinging creates suffering. Gentle holding creates freedom. The Buddha also spoke about right livelihood, the idea that how we earn matters as much as what we earn. In the modern world, many people find themselves trapped in jobs that drain their spirit. They trade hours of life for money, believing they have no choice. This is a heavy burden. It creates stress, resentment, and even illness. But when work aligns with values, when it contributes to well-being rather than harm, money becomes a byproduct of meaningful living, not the only goal. Even in challenging circumstances, small choices toward integrity and kindness in work can bring deep peace. We may not always control our conditions, but we can always choose how we show up within them. One of the greatest fears around money is the fear of scarcity. The mind often repeats, "There will not be enough." This fear is ancient, rooted in survival. But in modern life, it often exaggerates. Many of us have enough to survive, yet the fear of scarcity still whispers in the background. This fear blinds us to the abundance already present. Gratitude is the medicine here. When we pause and notice what we already have, the roof above, the meal before us, the friend who cares, we see that wealth is not always measured in numbers. It is measured in moments of presence and connection. Gratitude does not erase financial challenges, but it shifts the heart from poverty to richness, from fear to trust. Imagine two families sitting down to dinner. One family eats a simple meal of rice and vegetables with laughter, warmth, and gratitude. The other eats an expensive feast but sits in silence, each person lost in worry or resentment. Which family is truly wealthy? The answer is clear. Wealth is not only about what is on the table. It is about the heart that receives it. Buddhist wisdom reminds us again and again that true richness comes not from accumulation, but from appreciation. This shift in perspective has practical power. When we loosen the grip of fear and craving, we make clearer choices with money. We spend with intention instead of impulse. We save with wisdom instead of hoarding. We give with generosity instead of fear. Generosity, in particular, is a practice that transforms the heart. When we give, even a little, we break the chain of clinging. We discover that our well-being is connected to the well-being of others. We taste freedom from the endless mine and more. This is why generosity has been celebrated in every wisdom tradition. It is not about the size of the gift. It is about the size of the heart that gives. In the end, the struggle with money is not truly about money. It is about identity. We fear being seen as failures if we have less. We chase status to feel worthy. But these struggles dissolve when we see that our worth is not defined by wealth. It is defined by the qualities of our heart, by compassion, kindness, presence, and integrity. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy the peace of a mind that knows its true value. That peace comes only from awakening to who we are beyond possessions. And so, as we pause here, we begin to see money in a new light. It is no longer an enemy or a savior. It is simply a tool, neutral in itself, shaped by the way we use it. If we use it with fear and craving, it becomes a chain. If we use it with wisdom and compassion, it becomes a key. The question is never only, how much do I have? The deeper question is, how do I relate to what I have? In that question lies the possibility of freedom. The fear of not having enough follows many people through their entire lives. It whispers during childhood when parents argue about bills. It grows louder in adulthood when debts pile up or when jobs feel unstable. Even in old age, when one might expect peace, the worry about savings and survival often lingers. This constant fear is like a shadow, always near, always coloring the way we see the world. Yet the shadow is not reality itself. It is a projection of the mind. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to look directly at this fear and ask, what is truly missing right now? In this moment, with this breath, is there enough? More often than not, the answer is yes. There is food for today. There is shelter for tonight. There is breath in the lungs. When we return to the present, the fear of scarcity loosens because scarcity lives mostly in the imagined future. There is a well-known teaching that compares desire to drinking salt water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. This is exactly how craving for money works. We believe the next dollar, the next promotion, the next investment will finally satisfy us. But each gain only increases the thirst. Instead of finding rest, we find ourselves chasing faster, working longer, sacrificing health and relationships for numbers on a screen. This cycle is endless until we see clearly that satisfaction does not come from external accumulation. It comes from internal contentment. Contentment is not laziness or lack of ambition. It is the freedom to enjoy what we have while working wisely for what we need. It is the ability to live without the constant feeling of never enough. A powerful story from Buddhist tradition tells of a king who had everything: palaces, treasures, servants, yet still could not sleep peacefully. His mind was filled with worry about losing what he had. One night he walked through the village and saw a poor farmer sleeping deeply on the ground, his face relaxed, his breath calm. The king asked himself, why can this man, with nothing, sleep in peace, while I, with everything, cannot? The answer was clear. Peace does not come from possession. Peace comes from freedom from attachment. The farmer, though poor, was rich in rest. The king, though wealthy, was poor in spirit. This story reminds us that money cannot buy the deepest treasures: rest, peace, and contentment. Generosity is the antidote to this endless thirst. When we give, we confront the fear of scarcity directly. The mind says, if I give, I will have less. But the heart discovers something different. Giving creates abundance. It opens the flow of trust, connection, and joy. Imagine giving a small meal to someone who is hungry. The food itself may not be large, but the act of giving fills both giver and receiver with warmth. In that moment, wealth is created, not lost. This is why the Buddha taught that generosity is the first step on the path of liberation. It loosens the chains of clinging and reveals the natural richness of the heart. Even the smallest gift, when offered with sincerity, breaks the illusion of mine and not enough. In the modern world, generosity does not always mean money. It can be time, attention, or care. A busy parent who pauses to listen deeply to their child is practicing generosity. A worker who helps a colleague without expecting anything in return is practicing generosity. A stranger who offers a smile, a kind word, or a gentle presence is giving something priceless. Each of these acts weakens the grip of craving and fear. Each act reminds us that true wealth is shared, not hoarded. And each act brings a taste of freedom from the endless cycle of desire. There is also wisdom in simplicity. Simplicity does not mean poverty. It means living with clarity about what truly matters. In a world overflowing with choices, advertisements, and temptations, simplicity is a radical act. It is choosing not to be owned by possessions. It is choosing quality over quantity, meaning over excess. Many who practice simplicity find that their joy increases because their minds are no longer cluttered with endless wants. They discover space to breathe, space to live. Buddhist monks embody this in their lifestyle, living with only what is necessary. But even without becoming monks, we can taste this freedom by asking ourselves before each purchase, do I really need this, or am I trying to fill an emptiness inside? Often, the answer is surprising. Not another teaching describes the middle way, not too much, not too little. This applies beautifully to money. Poverty creates real suffering. Extreme wealth often creates attachment and fear. The middle way is not about a specific number. It is about balance. Enough to live with dignity, enough to care for others, but not so much that our lives become consumed by protecting, comparing, or craving more. Walking this middle way brings stability to the heart. It keeps us grounded in gratitude rather than pulled apart by extremes. It is also important to see that money itself is not evil. The Buddha never condemned wealth. What he pointed to was the danger of attachment, greed, and misuse. Money can build hospitals, schools, and homes. It can feed the hungry and support those in need. But it can also be used to exploit, to dominate, to destroy. The difference is not in the money itself, but in the mind that holds it. This is why awareness is essential. When money is guided by compassion and wisdom, it becomes a tool of healing. When it is driven by fear and greed, it becomes a weapon of suffering. Each of us has the power to choose how we use the resources in our hands. For those struggling with debt or financial pressure, Buddhist teachings offer not just comfort, but also practical strength. Instead of drowning in shame or fear, we can bring mindfulness to our situation. We can breathe, step back, and see the problem clearly. From clarity comes wiser action. Perhaps it is restructuring spending, asking for help, or taking small steps toward change. Mindfulness turns panic into patience. It allows us to work with money challenges without being crushed by them. Every small step toward balance becomes an act of liberation. Ultimately, the teaching around money points us back to the same truth as every other part of life. Our peace does not depend on what we have, but on how we see. The endless chase for more is a misunderstanding. The path of freedom lies in contentment, gratitude, generosity, and wise use of resources. When we embody these qualities, money loses its power to control us. We still earn, spend, and save, but without the chains of fear and craving. We live lighter. We breathe easier. We see that true wealth has always been within. As we close this second doorway, we prepare to enter the next. Stress weighs heavily on the body. Money weighs heavily on the heart. And now we turn to another weight that shapes so many lives: the struggle of relationships. Love promises connection and joy, yet so often it brings pain, misunderstanding, and conflict. Just as Buddhist wisdom offers freedom from stress and money anxiety, it also offers a path through the challenges of human connection. For the next doorway opens not into the world of possessions, but into the fragile and beautiful world of the human heart in relationship. Relationships are the place where our deepest hopes and deepest pains often meet. We long for connection, for love, for someone to truly see us. We dream of being held, understood, and accepted. And sometimes we taste that sweetness. There are moments of laughter with a friend, warmth in a family gathering, or intimacy with a partner that makes us believe we have found a home in another human being. Yet these same relationships can also bring the sharpest wounds. Misunderstandings, arguments, betrayal, or distance can turn love into loneliness, comfort into confusion. It is in relationship that many of us experience both heaven and hell, often in the same day. Why is this so? Why do the people we care about most sometimes hurt us the deepest? Why do relationships that begin with joy so often end with sorrow or frustration? The answer lies partly in the nature of human desire. We enter relationships with expectations spoken or unspoken. We expect a partner to make us feel whole, a friend to always stand by our side, a family to give us unconditional support. When these expectations are not met, disappointment grows. Disappointment turns into resentment, and resentment becomes conflict. It is not that love itself is broken. It is that we ask love to carry a weight it cannot bear, the weight of fixing our own inner emptiness. Buddhist wisdom shines a light on this. The Buddha taught that all beings seek happiness and wish to avoid suffering. In relationships, this universal truth is easy to forget. We focus so much on our own needs that we forget the person across from us is also longing for peace, safety, and love. When we argue, we see only the enemy. But if we pause and look deeply, we see another human being struggling with fear, desire, or pain just as we do. This simple recognition can soften the heart. It turns conflict into compassion. It does not mean we accept harmful behavior, but it reminds us that beneath the anger, every person carries the same longing to be free from suffering. Think of a couple arguing late at night. The words are sharp, the voice is raised. Each person is convinced they are right, and each feels unseen. In the heat of the moment, it feels as if the other person is the problem. But if they could stop for a moment, breathe, and look into each other's eyes, they might see something else. Behind the anger in the husband's face is fear of not being respected, fear of failing as a provider. Behind the tears of the wife is loneliness, the ache of not being heard, the longing to be held. Beneath the fight are two wounded hearts, each asking, "Do I matter? Am I loved?" When we see this truth, compassion becomes possible. The fight is no longer about dishes or money or chores. It is about two people seeking safety in a world that feels uncertain. The Buddha taught the practice of deep listening and loving speech as medicine for broken relationships. Deep listening means listening without planning your reply, without defending yourself, without judgment. It means listening with the sole purpose of helping the other person suffer less. This kind of listening is rare but powerful. It creates space for healing because it allows the other person to feel seen. Loving speech is the companion to this. It is speaking words that are true, but spoken gently in a way that does not wound. Imagine how different most arguments would be if both sides practiced deep listening and loving speech. Instead of walls, bridges would appear. Instead of wounds, there would be openings for healing. One of the greatest challenges in relationships is attachment. We confuse love with clinging. We believe that if we hold tightly enough, we will not be abandoned. But clinging suffocates love. It turns affection into possession and connection into control. True love in Buddhist teaching is like a bird. If we try to trap it in a cage, it loses its beauty. If we let it fly freely, it sings more sweetly and may choose to stay near you on its own. Love that is free, not based on fear, is love that can last. This is why the Buddha spoke of the 4 qualities of true love: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. When these qualities are present, love becomes nourishment. When they are absent, love turns into craving and pain. Loving kindness means wishing well for the other person, not only when they please us, but always. Compassion means understanding their suffering and responding with care. Joy means celebrating their happiness as our own, instead of competing or comparing. Equanimity means holding the relationship with balance, not clinging or rejecting, but allowing space for both closeness and independence. Imagine a relationship where these 4 qualities guide every word and action. Even when challenges arise, the bond remains strong because it is rooted not in neediness, but in freedom. Another common source of pain in relationships is the illusion of permanence. We expect things to stay the same. We want our partner to always love us in the same way, our friend to always be available, our family to never change. But life is impermanent. People grow, circumstances shift, and feelings change. When we resist this truth, suffering grows. But when we accept impermanence, we learn to cherish each moment. Instead of demanding forever, we learn to say thank you for today. This shift turns relationships into living treasures. Even if they change tomorrow, the love we shared today remains real and precious. Impermanence does not weaken love. It deepens it because it teaches us to appreciate what is here now. Consider the story of a teacher who held up a delicate flower before his students. He asked them, "How long do you think this flower will last?" Some said days, some said weeks. The teacher smiled and said, "The flower is already dying, and that is why it is beautiful." Relationships are like this flower. They bloom, they change, and one day they may fade. When we understand this, we hold them gently, with gratitude instead of grasping. We do not waste today's love worrying about tomorrow's loss. We savor what is, and in doing so, we taste a deeper kind of joy. In the end, relationships are both a mirror and a teacher. They show us where we cling, where we fear, where we still need to grow. They also offer endless opportunities to practice patience, compassion, and forgiveness. No relationship is perfect, but each one can become a path of awakening if we approach it with awareness. The Buddha never promised that love would be without pain, but he did show that even in the middle of conflict, there can be understanding. Even in heartbreak, there can be wisdom. Even in separation, there can be gratitude. When relationships break, the pain can feel unbearable. A friend drifts away, a partner leaves, a family member says words that cannot be taken back. The heart feels shattered, and the mind keeps replaying the story, asking why, searching for someone to blame. This heartbreak is universal. It touches the young and the old, the rich and the poor. No one escapes it. Yet even in this raw place, Buddhist wisdom offers a doorway to healing. It does not deny the pain. It does not say, "Get over it." Instead, it says, "Look deeply." When we look into heartbreak with awareness, we discover that what hurts the most is not only the loss itself, but the clinging to how we wanted things to be. The tighter we hold onto the picture of how it should have been, the deeper the suffering. Healing begins when we gently loosen our grip and allow life to be as it is, Forgiveness is one of the most powerful medicines in this process. Forgiveness does not mean we approve of harmful actions. It does not erase what happened. It means we choose not to carry the weight of resentment any longer. Holding on to anger is like holding a hot coal, waiting to throw it at someone else, but burning ourselves first. The Buddha said that hatred is never healed by hatred, but only by love. This does not mean love in a romantic sense, but love as understanding, love as compassion, love as the willingness to release the chains of bitterness. When we forgive, we set ourselves free. We stop giving our past the power to poison our present. Forgiveness often begins with ourselves. Many people carry shame for mistakes made in relationships. They replay words they wish they had not said, choices they regret, moments when fear or anger controlled them. This self-judgment is heavy, and it blocks the heart from healing. Buddhist wisdom teaches self-compassion as the foundation for all compassion. We remember that to be human is to be imperfect. We remember that growth often comes through mistakes. When we can look at our younger self with kindness instead of harshness, forgiveness flows naturally. And from this self-forgiveness, it becomes easier to forgive others. Communication is another place where Buddhist practice brings transformation. Much of relationship suffering comes not from what actually happens, but from what is misunderstood. A single careless word can echo in the mind for years. A silence can be louder than shouting. This is why mindful communication is so essential. When we speak with mindfulness, we pause before reacting. We ask ourselves, are these words true? Are they kind? Are they necessary? If they are not, we choose silence. If they are, we offer them gently. Words spoken this way become bridges instead of weapons. They create understanding instead of division. Imagine how many conflicts could dissolve if both sides practiced mindful speech. There is also wisdom in space. In the intensity of conflict, sometimes the most loving act is to pause, to breathe, to step back. Space does not mean abandonment. It means allowing emotions to settle before trying to connect again. Just as muddy water clears when left undisturbed, hearts often find clarity when given time. When we rush to resolve things in the heat of anger, we usually deepen the wound. When we allow space, compassion can return, and communication can flow. With more ease, relationships also reveal the truth of interdependence. We often think of ourselves as separate individuals, but in reality, we are woven together like threads in a fabric. The way we speak, the way we act, the way we show up affects everyone around us. A kind word can ripple outward, lifting many hearts. A harsh word can create waves of pain far beyond the moment. When we recognize this interconnection, we become more mindful. We see that caring for others is not separate from caring for ourselves, because we are part of the same fabric. To hurt another is to hurt ourselves. To love another is to expand our own heart. Jealousy and comparison are also common poisons. In relationships, we compare ourselves to others and to our own imagined ideals. We fear being less loved, less valued, less important. These feelings create distance and distrust. Buddhist wisdom invites us to practice mudita, or sympathetic joy, the ability to rejoice in the happiness of others. When a friend succeeds, instead of comparing, we celebrate. When a partner shines, instead of feeling diminished, we take joy in their light. This practice transforms envy into connection. It allows relationships to be places of shared joy rather than competition. Equally important is the practice of presence. Many relationships suffer not from lack of love, but from lack of attention. We are physically with someone, but mentally elsewhere, scrolling on a phone, lost in worries, distracted by plans. To be present is one of the greatest gifts we can give. When we look into another's eyes and truly listen, we say without words, "You matter. You are seen." Presence nourishes relationships more deeply than any material gift. It is simple, yet it requires intention. To pause, to set aside distractions, to offer our full attention. This is love in action. Of course, not every relationship can or should be saved. Some connections are toxic, abusive, or harmful. Buddhist wisdom does not ask us to remain where we are being damaged. Compassion includes protecting ourselves. Sometimes the most loving act is to let go, to walk away with clarity and peace. Letting go is not failure, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that some paths must diverge for growth. To continue, even in letting go, we can choose to release with compassion instead of bitterness. We can wish the other well on their path, even as we choose a different direction for ours. In the end, relationships are not meant to make us whole. They are meant to help us remember that we are already whole. They are mirrors that reflect both our beauty and our wounds. They are teachers that invite us to grow in patience, compassion, and wisdom. When we approach them with clinging, we suffer. When we approach them with awareness, they become sacred ground. The Buddha did not promise perfect relationships, but he offered tools to navigate them with grace. Through loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, we can turn even the challenges of love into opportunities for awakening. As we step forward, we carry these lessons with us. Stress showed us how to breathe. Money showed us how to see. Contentment. Relationships show us how to love without clinging. And now another doorway opens. The restless energy of anxiety, the constant hum of worry about what might happen next. Just as Buddhist wisdom offers freedom in stress, money, and relationships, it also offers a path through anxiety. For beyond the fear of tomorrow lies the peace of today, waiting to be uncovered. Anxiety has become one of the defining struggles of modern life. It hides beneath the surface of daily routines, whispering questions that never seem to stop. What if I fail? What if I get sick? What if something happens to the people I love? What if I am not enough? For some, anxiety is a steady hum in the background. For others, it strikes like a storm, with racing heart, shallow breath, and restless thoughts that refuse to quiet down. No matter how it shows up, anxiety steals peace. It makes the present moment feel unsafe and the future feel threatening. Even when nothing is wrong, the mind convinces us that something surely will be. This is the strange paradox of anxiety. It is often not about what is happening, but about what might happen. It is fear of the future, fear of possibilities that have not yet come to pass. The mind creates scenarios, rehearses disasters, and prepares for pain. In doing so, it fills the body with stress chemicals and fills the heart with dread, even though the feared event may never occur. Anxiety is like carrying an umbrella every day, even when the sky is clear, waiting for a storm that may never come. The weight of that umbrella slows us down, darkens our joy, and makes the simple act of living feel heavy. Buddhist wisdom points us to the root of this suffering. The Buddha taught that fear and anxiety arise when the mind leaves the present moment. We abandon what is here and run into an imagined future. Yet the future does not exist. It is only a projection. The only reality is this breath, this step, this moment. When we return to the present, anxiety loosens its grip because it cannot live without the fuel of future thinking. This is why mindfulness is so powerful. It anchors us in the now. It reminds us that in this exact second, most of the time, we are safe. The breath is moving, the body is alive, and there is nothing missing. The danger exists only in the imagination. Imagine sitting in a dark room. Shadows on the wall take on frightening shapes. The mind says, there is danger here. The heart races, the body tenses. But when the light is turned on, the shadows disappear, and we see only a coat on a chair. Anxiety is like this darkness. It creates monsters out of shadows. Mindfulness is the light that reveals what is real and what is imagined. It does not mean danger never exists, but it prevents us from living in fear of shadows that were never real. A powerful practice for anxiety is mindful breathing. When the mind races into the future, we gently guide it back to the rhythm of inhale and exhale. The breath becomes a safe anchor, reminding us that we are here now. Even a few moments of mindful breathing can calm the nervous system, slow the heart, and quiet the storm of thoughts. Each breath is like a message from the body saying, "You are alive, you are safe, you are here." The more we practice, the more this anchor becomes available in moments of fear. Instead of being swept away by anxious thoughts, we can return to the steady rhythm of life itself. Another teaching reminds us that anxiety is often fueled by resistance. We feel anxious about feeling anxious. We fight the tight chest, the racing mind, the trembling hands. We tell ourselves, this should not be happening. But this resistance only increases the suffering. Buddhist wisdom invites us to do something radical, to allow, to meet anxiety with acceptance, to breathe into it, to say, this too belongs. When we stop fighting anxiety, its power diminishes. It becomes another passing experience, like a wave rising and falling in the ocean. We do not need to stop the wave. We only need to remember that beneath the waves, the ocean is vast and steady. Consider a man standing at the edge of the sea. When the waves crash, he tenses and resists, and the force knocks him down. But when he relaxes, bends his knees, and flows with the movement, he stays upright. Anxiety works the same way. Resistance makes it stronger. Allowing makes it softer. This does not mean we enjoy anxiety or want it to stay. It means we recognize it as part of the human experience. By allowing, we create space for it to rise and fall without drowning us. Another aspect of anxiety is the illusion of control. Much of our fear comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled, the opinions of others, the future of the economy, the health of our bodies, the fate of our loved ones. The mind believes that if we worry enough, we can prevent bad things from happening. But worry is not control. It is only suffering. The Buddha taught the wisdom of letting go, the freedom of recognizing what is and is not within our hands. We cannot control the weather, but we can carry an umbrella when needed. We cannot control the actions of others, but we can choose our response. We cannot control the future, but we can plant seeds of kindness and wisdom today. When we focus on what we can do and release what we cannot, anxiety loses its fuel. Gratitude is another medicine. Anxiety lives in the imagined future. Gratitude lives in the present. When we pause and notice even the smallest blessings, the warmth of sunlight, the taste of tea, the sound of a friend's voice, our attention shifts from fear to appreciation. The mind cannot hold both at once. Gratitude grounds us in what is real. It does not erase uncertainty, but it reminds us that life also holds beauty and goodness right here, right now. Each moment of gratitude is like a stone placed on the side of peace, helping to balance the scale against fear. Community is also a powerful support. Anxiety thrives in isolation. When we keep our fears locked inside, they grow larger. But when we share them with someone who listens with compassion, the weight lessens. Buddhist practice emphasizes the Sangha, the community of fellow seekers. In community, we remember we are not alone. Others too have fears, doubts, and struggles. Others too are learning to breathe through storms. This shared humanity brings comfort and courage. Together, we walk the path of transformation. Ultimately, anxiety teaches us about impermanence. No anxious moment lasts forever. Each surge of fear rises, peaks, and falls. When we watch closely, we see this truth. Even the strongest panic softens. Eventually, this recognition gives us strength. Instead of believing, "I will always feel this way," we can say, "This is a passing storm." Impermanence becomes not a threat, but a source of hope. Just as joy comes and goes, so does fear. Just as daylight follows night, peace can follow anxiety. As we pause here, we see that anxiety, though painful, is also a teacher. It shows us the danger of leaving the present moment. It reminds us of the futility of clinging to control. It invites us to practice breathing, allowing, gratitude, and letting go. It teaches us to trust the flow of life instead of fighting it. Anxiety may still visit, but it no longer has to rule. We learn to bow to it gently, breathe, and let it pass like clouds across the sky. Anxiety does not only live in moments of panic. It often hides in the quieter corners of life, shaping decisions and limiting possibilities. How many times have we avoided an opportunity because of fear of failure? How many times have we stayed silent in a conversation because of fear of judgment? How many dreams have been delayed or abandoned because of fear of the unknown? Anxiety is not just a feeling. It is a thief of freedom. It steals not only our peace, but also our potential. And yet, within this struggle lies an opening. Each moment of fear can become a doorway to courage if we know how to walk through it. The Buddha once told a story of a traveler who came upon a great river. The current was strong, the water deep, and there was no bridge. The traveler was afraid, but he knew he needed to cross to reach safety. So he gathered branches, tied them together, and built a raft. With effort, he crossed the river and reached the other shore. Once there, he realized he no longer needed the raft. Carrying it would only weigh him down. The Buddha said our fears are like this raft. They help us survive in certain moments, but once we are safe, we must learn to set them down. Anxiety is often a survival tool that outlives its usefulness. It prepares us for danger, but then it clings long after the danger is gone. Freedom comes when we recognize, I am safe now. I can set this raft down. Facing anxiety requires courage, but courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means moving forward even while fear is present. A young monk once asked his teacher, "How can I get rid of fear?" The teacher replied, "Why would you want to get rid of it? Fear is a part of being alive. Learn to walk with it, hand in hand, without letting it control you." This teaching is powerful. We do not need to destroy anxiety to live well. We need to change our relationship with it. When fear arises, instead of panicking, we can greet it like an old companion. "Hello, fear. I see you." In this way, fear becomes less of an enemy and more of a messenger, reminding us of what matters most. One of the hidden causes of anxiety is the belief that we are separate, small, and alone. When challenges come, we feel isolated, as if the burden is ours alone to carry. But Buddhist wisdom points us toward interconnection. Just as no flower blooms without sun, rain, and soil, no human life exists apart from others. We are woven into a vast web of support family, friends, strangers, even the earth itself. When we feel anxious, remembering this truth can bring comfort. We are not alone. The same awareness that lives in us lives in everyone. The same breath that fills our lungs fills the world around us. In this recognition, the walls of isolation soften and anxiety eases. Meditation is another practice that transforms anxiety. In meditation, we sit quietly, observing thoughts without chasing them. At first, anxiety may grow louder. The mind shouts, "You cannot sit still. You must worry. You must plan." But as we continue, we see that thoughts are like passing clouds. They arise, change, and fade. We realize we are not the thoughts themselves. We are the awareness in which they appear. This realization creates space. Instead of drowning in fear, we watch it pass across the sky of the mind. The more we practice, the more we trust this spaciousness. Even in moments of strong anxiety, we remember, this is only a cloud. The sky remains clear. Compassion plays an important role in healing anxiety. Many people judge themselves harshly for feeling afraid. They say, I should be stronger. I should not worry so much. This judgment adds a second layer of suffering. Buddhist practice teaches us to meet ourselves with kindness. When anxiety arises, instead of criticizing ourselves, we can place a hand on the heart and whisper, it is okay. This is a hard moment. May I be gentle with myself. This simple act of compassion softens the edges of fear. It reminds us that being human means being vulnerable, and vulnerability is not weakness. It is the ground of connection and growth. Stories of transformation remind us that anxiety does not have to define us. There are countless people who once lived trapped in fear, but through practice found freedom. One woman, for example, spent years terrified of public speaking. Every time she had to present at work, her body shook, her voice cracked, and her mind screamed with panic. But she began practicing mindfulness, breathing deeply before each meeting, noticing the sensations, without judgment. Slowly, she realized the fear was just energy moving through her body. Instead of resisting, she welcomed it. Over time, the fear softened and she found her voice. What once felt impossible became possible. Her story mirrors the truth of practice. We cannot always control when anxiety comes, but we can transform the way we meet it. Nature can also be a great healer. Anxiety thrives in closed rooms, screens, and noise. When we step outside, breathe fresh air, and feel the ground beneath our feet, perspective shifts. A tree does not worry about tomorrow. A bird does not panic about its song. The natural world reminds us of simplicity, of being, of the rhythm of life beyond human concerns. Many Buddhist teachers encourage walking meditation in nature, not rushing, not reaching, simply walking slowly, feeling each step. This practice grounds us in the present and dissolves the storm of worry. Step by step, breath by breath, anxiety loses its power. In the end, anxiety is part of the human condition, but it does not have to be our master. It can be a teacher, showing us where we cling, where we resist, where we forget to breathe. It can guide us back to mindfulness, to compassion, to presence. It can remind us of the power of letting go and the beauty of impermanence. Each anxious moment is an invitation. Will we get lost in fear, or will we use this moment to awaken? The choice is ours. Again and again, as we close this fourth doorway, we carry forward the wisdom it offers. Stress taught us to rest in the breath. Money taught us to hold lightly and give generously. Relationships taught us to love without clinging. Anxiety now teaches us to live in the present and trust the unfolding of life. Ahead lies another challenge of the modern world: loneliness. Surrounded by people, connected by technology, yet many still feel empty and unseen. Just as anxiety dissolves when we return to the present, loneliness dissolves when we remember our interconnection. The next doorway will open into this silent pain, and with it, another opportunity to discover freedom. Loneliness is one of the quietest but heaviest burdens of modern life. A person can live in a crowded city, surrounded by thousands, and still feel invisible. A person can scroll through social media with hundreds of friends online and still feel completely alone. Loneliness is not only about being without people. It is about being without connection. It is the ache of not being understood, the silence of not being seen, the emptiness of not feeling that we truly belong. For many, this ache lingers day after day, hidden behind smiles, hidden beneath busy schedules, hidden even from themselves. The modern world has created a strange paradox. Technology has given us the ability to connect instantly, across continents, at any hour. Yet this same technology often deepens loneliness. We exchange likes, comments, and short messages, but rarely deep conversations. We project images of happiness, but rarely reveal our pain. We scroll through endless feeds, but rarely sit with another human being in stillness. The result is a culture where people appear more connected than ever, but feel more alone than ever. This loneliness is not only emotional, it affects health, sleep, even the length of life. It weighs on the heart like a stone. Buddhist wisdom invites us to look deeply into the nature of loneliness. At its core, loneliness is the feeling of being separate. It is the belief that we are isolated, cut off from others, floating like a small island in a vast sea. But is this true? If we look carefully, we see that our very existence is woven with others. The food we eat comes from farmers, the clothes we wear from workers, the breath we take from trees. Even our thoughts and language were given to us by countless generations before us. We are not separate islands. We are part of an endless web of life. Loneliness arises when we forget this truth. Connection begins when we remember it. Imagine holding a single sheet of paper. At first, it seems like a small, separate object. But look more deeply. Inside that sheet is sunlight, for without sunlight, the tree could not grow. Inside is rain, for without rain, the tree could not live. Inside is soil, air, the lumberjack, the paper mill, the truck that delivered it, the teacher who taught you to write upon it. The entire universe is present in that one sheet of paper. In the same way, the entire universe is present in each of us. We are never truly alone because everything exists within us and we within everything. This is the wisdom of interbeing. It dissolves the illusion of separation and opens the door to belonging. Still, the ache of loneliness feels real. How do we transform it? The first step is to turn toward it with awareness. Instead of distracting ourselves, we sit quietly and notice the feeling. Where does loneliness live in the body? Is it a heaviness in the chest, an emptiness in the stomach, a tightness in the throat? By naming and noticing, we create space. We say, "This is loneliness. This is how it feels." Already, the burden softens, because awareness itself is a form of connection. We are no longer lost in the ache. We are in relationship with it, gentle and curious. The next step is compassion. Loneliness often brings shame. We tell ourselves, "Something is wrong with me because I feel alone." This judgment deepens the pain. But Buddhist practice teaches us to hold our suffering like a crying child. When a child is lonely, we do not scold them. We pick them up, hold them, soothe them with warmth. In the same way, when we feel lonely, we can place a hand on the heart and whisper, "It is okay. I am here for you." This self-compassion transforms loneliness into tenderness. It reminds us that the one person we are never truly without is ourselves. To be a true friend to ourselves is the beginning of healing. Community, or Sangha, is another essential medicine. The Buddha emphasized practicing together, not alone. When we gather with others who are also seeking peace, something shifts. We may not share every detail of our lives, but we share silence, breath, and intention. Sitting in meditation with others, walking mindfully with others, listening deeply to others, all of this creates connection that words cannot capture. Even brief moments of true presence can dissolve the illusion of isolation. The heart recognizes, "I am part of something larger. I belong." This belonging is not about fitting in, but about remembering our shared humanity. Deep listening and loving speech also build bridges across loneliness. When someone listens to us without judgment, when they truly hear our story, loneliness melts. When we listen to another with patience and care, we help dissolve their loneliness too. Connection grows not from grand gestures, but from simple presence. To ask sincerely, "How are you?" and to stay for the answer. To say honestly, "I see you. I value you." These small acts carry immense power. They remind us that loneliness is not destiny, but a call to deeper connection. Impermanence also brings comfort here. Just as no storm lasts forever, no loneliness lasts forever. Feelings rise and fall like waves. Some nights feel unbearably empty, but morning brings light. Some seasons feel isolating, but life is always changing. When we understand impermanence, we hold loneliness more lightly. We do not believe the story, "I will always feel this way." We say instead, "This is a passing cloud. The clear sky is still here." This recognition brings hope. It reminds us that even loneliness can be transformed, given time and awareness. Generosity is another path out of loneliness. When we give to others our time, our care, our presence, the walls of separation dissolve. Serving a meal, helping a neighbor, volunteering in the community. All these acts connect us to the web of life. Loneliness shrinks when love expands. Even a small act, like smiling at a stranger, can create a thread of connection. In giving, we remember that we are part of the flow of humanity. Loneliness says, "I am separate." Generosity says, "We belong to each other." Loneliness is not something to be feared. It is an invitation. It asks us to look deeply into the nature of self, into the illusion of separation, into the longing of the heart. It asks us to remember our connection to all beings, to practice compassion, to join in community, to listen, and to give. In this way, loneliness becomes not a curse, but a teacher. It points us back to the truth that we are never truly alone. We carry the whole universe within us, and we are carried by the universe in return. Loneliness can sometimes feel like an endless night stretching without dawn. The silence in the room seems louder than any noise, and the mind repeats the same painful thought. No one understands me. No one is here for me. Yet even in this deepest darkness, a spark of light can appear when we learn to see loneliness differently. Instead of treating it as an enemy to escape, Buddhist wisdom invites us to view loneliness as a doorway. It reveals the human need for connection, yes, but it also reveals the deeper truth that we already carry within us, the very companionship we seek. A Zen teacher once said that the longest journey is from the head to the heart. Loneliness often comes when we live only in the head, lost in thoughts, judgments, and comparisons. The heart, however, knows connection. It feels the warmth of the sun, the softness of a smile, the rhythm of the breath. To move from head to heart is to rediscover that we are already embraced by life. Each heartbeat is proof that we are connected to the air, to the earth, to the great web of being. When we rest in the heart, even solitude can feel like companionship. There is an important difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful sense of being cut off. Solitude is the peaceful choice to be with oneself. Many fear solitude because they confuse it with loneliness. But solitude, when embraced with mindfulness, is nourishing. It allows us to listen deeply to our own heart, to rest, to breathe, to remember who we are without distraction. The Buddha often withdrew into solitude, not as rejection of others, but as a way to renew his heart so he could return to others with more clarity and compassion. When we learn to turn loneliness into solitude, the ache becomes a gift. We discover that we can be our own companion, that our presence is enough, that practicing solitude can be simple. It might mean turning off the phone for a while, sitting quietly with a cup of tea, walking slowly in nature, or writing in a journal. At first, the silence may feel uncomfortable. The mind may shout, "This is empty. This is pointless." But With patience, the silence becomes a friend. We begin to hear the quieter voice beneath the noise, the voice of the heart, the voice of awareness. In that listening, loneliness softens because we realize we are never truly alone. We are accompanied by breath, by earth, by countless beings whose lives are intertwined with ours. Compassion for others is also a powerful remedy for loneliness. When we feel alone, the focus often turns inward. My pain, my emptiness, my longing. This self-focus can intensify the ache. But when we turn outward with compassion, offering kindness to others who suffer, something shifts. We recognize that loneliness is not only ours, it is shared by millions. By helping another, we help ourselves. A phone call to a friend, a visit to someone who is sick, a smile to a stranger, all of these dissolve the walls of isolation. In giving love, we receive it. Compassion creates connection that no amount of isolation can fully erase. There is a story of a young monk who once felt unbearably lonely in his monastery. Surrounded by silence, he felt invisible and forgotten. He went to his teacher and confessed, "I feel so alone." The teacher pointed to a candle burning nearby and said, "Do you see the flame?" The monk nodded. "That flame is not alone." The teacher said, "It carries the light of the sun, the warmth of the wood, the air that feeds it. You are like that flame. You carry the whole universe within you. You are never alone." The monk realized that loneliness had blinded him to the truth of interconnection. The flame, simple and small, reminded him of his belonging. This teaching applies to us all. When loneliness whispers that we are separate, we can look deeply and see the countless conditions that make our life possible. Our breath connects us to trees. Our food connects us to farmers. Our thoughts connect us to teachers long gone. Our laughter connects us to friends. Loneliness is a narrow lens. Awareness broadens the view. And in that broader view, belonging becomes undeniable. It is also helpful to recognize that loneliness, like all emotions, is impermanent. It rises, it lingers, it fades. No feeling lasts forever. When we cling to the belief, "I will always be alone," we suffer more. But when we remember that feelings change, we hold loneliness with gentleness, knowing it will pass. Sometimes, simply whispering to ourselves, "This too will change," brings enough hope to keep walking forward. In time, loneliness itself can become a teacher of love. It teaches us to value connection when it comes, to treasure the smile of a friend, the touch of a hand, the presence of another being. It teaches us not to take relationships for granted, but to nourish them with care and gratitude. Loneliness teaches us empathy. When we know its ache, we are more likely to notice the hidden ache in others and to reach out with kindness. In this way, our own suffering becomes the seed of compassion for the world. Perhaps the greatest gift of loneliness is that it points us back to the truth of who we are. Beneath all connections and separations, we are awareness itself. Awareness is never lonely. It holds all experiences equally. It is the vast sky in which loneliness appears and disappears like a passing cloud. When we rest in awareness, loneliness loses its power to define us. We are no longer a lonely person. We are the space in which loneliness arises and fades. This recognition brings freedom. We may still feel the ache, but it no longer binds us. We know that who we are is far greater than any single feeling. As we close this doorway, we honor loneliness not as an enemy, but as a guide. It has shown us the illusion of separation and the truth of interbeing. It has taught us the value of solitude, the power of compassion, the reality of impermanence. It has reminded us that even in the quietest night, we are connected to all of life. And so, we step forward lighter, wiser, more open. Ahead lies another challenge of the human heart: anger. Just as loneliness isolates us, Anger burns us. It rises quickly. It consumes energy. It damages relationships. Yet, like loneliness, it also holds lessons if we know how to look. The next doorway will open into this fire, and together we will learn how Buddhist wisdom cools the flames and reveals the peace hidden beneath. Anger is one of the most explosive emotions we face. It can arrive in an instant, often without warning, like a spark that sets a dry forest ablaze. A single word, a single look, a single memory can ignite it. Anger tightens the chest, quickens the breath, and sharpens the voice. It makes our vision narrow, our patience vanish, and our kindness disappear. In its heat, we say things we regret, we hurt the people we love, and we damage ourselves most of all. Anger promises power, but it leaves destruction. And yet, it is part of being human. To deny anger or to bury it only makes it grow stronger. The challenge is not to get rid of anger, but to transform it in daily life. Anger often hides beneath stress, fear, or hurt. A parent snaps at their child, not because they dislike them, but because they are exhausted. A worker lashes out at a colleague, not because they hate them, but because they feel unappreciated. Anger is often a mask for pain. The Buddha taught that anger, like all emotions, arises from causes and conditions. It does not appear out of nowhere. If we look deeply, we can see its roots: fear, disappointment, sadness, unmet expectations. When we see the root, anger is no longer a monster, but a messenger. It tells us, there is pain here. There is a wound that needs care. The first step in transforming anger is to see it clearly. One story tells of a monk who was insulted by a villager. The monk did not reply. He simply bowed and walked away. Later, another monk asked him, "Why did you not answer back? Why did you let him insult you?" The first monk replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not take it, who does it belong to?" This story illustrates a profound truth. Anger from others is like a gift. If we do not accept it, it stays with them. But if we grab it, hold it, and feed it, it becomes ours. How often do we accept anger like this? We hold on to it, replaying the insult in our mind, burning ourselves again and again. Yet we have the power to put it down, to let it stay where it came from. Mindfulness is the key to cooling anger. When we feel the heat rising, we can pause and breathe. The breath becomes like cool water poured onto a flame. At first, this feels impossible. The mind shouts, "I must react, I must defend." But if we breathe, even for a few moments, the intensity softens. The Buddha taught that holding anger is like holding a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. We burn ourselves first. Mindfulness allows us to set the coal down. The fire may still flicker, but it no longer consumes us. A practical practice is mindful walking. When anger surges, instead of exploding, we can step outside, walk slowly, and breathe with each step. With each inhale, we invite calm. With each exhale, we release tension. The ground supports us, the air cools us, the body settles. In this way, we create space before reacting. Space is what anger fears most, because in space, it cannot dominate. With space, we have choice. Without space, anger controls us. Compassion is another medicine for anger. When someone hurts us, our instinct is to strike back. But if we look deeper, we often see that they too are suffering. A person who lashes out is usually carrying pain of their own stress, fear, loneliness, insecurity. Seeing this does not excuse harmful behavior, but it explains it. It softens the edges of our rage. Instead of seeing an enemy, we see another human being trapped in their own suffering. Compassion cools anger the way shade cools the heat of the sun. It allows us to respond with clarity rather than vengeance. Consider a parent who yells at their child. If the child yells back, the cycle continues, growing hotter. But if the child pauses and sees that the parent is tired, worried, or overwhelmed, they may respond differently. They may choose silence or gentleness, breaking the cycle. In the same way, we can break cycles of anger in our own lives by seeing the suffering behind the words. Compassion does not mean we allow abuse. It means we protect ourselves while refusing to let hatred rule our hearts. Asterisk forgiveness is another powerful path. Holding on to anger is heavy. It drains energy and clouds joy. Forgiveness is not about forgetting or approving of harm. It is about choosing not to carry the burden anymore. When we forgive, we free ourselves. The other person may never change, but we are no longer chained to them by resentment. Forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves. It is the choice to live light, to breathe freely, to walk forward without the weight of the past. There is an important difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful sense of being cut off. Solitude is the peaceful choice to be with oneself. Many fear solitude because they confuse it with loneliness. But solitude, when embraced with mindfulness, is nourishing. It allows us to listen deeply to our own heart, to rest, to breathe, to remember who we are without distraction. The Buddha often withdrew into solitude, not as rejection of others, but as a way to renew his heart so he could return to others with more clarity and compassion. When we learn to turn loneliness into solitude, the ache becomes a gift. We discover that we can be our own companion, that our presence is enough, that practicing solitude can be simple. It might mean turning off the phone for a while, sitting quietly with a cup of tea, walking slowly in nature, or writing in a journal. At first, the silence may feel uncomfortable. The mind may shout, "This is empty. This is pointless." But with patience, the silence becomes a friend. We begin to hear the quieter voice beneath the noise, the voice of the heart, the voice of awareness. In that listening, loneliness softens because we realize we are never truly alone. We are accompanied by breath, by earth, by countless beings whose lives are intertwined with ours. Compassion for others is also a powerful remedy for loneliness. When we feel alone, the focus often turns inward. My pain, my emptiness, my longing. This self-focus can intensify the ache. But when we turn outward with compassion, offering kindness to others who suffer, something shifts. We recognize that loneliness is not only ours, it is shared by millions. By helping another, we help ourselves. A phone call to a friend, a visit to someone who is sick, a smile to a stranger, all of these dissolve the walls of isolation. In giving love, we receive it. Compassion creates connection that no amount of isolation can fully erase. There is a story of a young monk who once felt unbearably lonely in his monastery. Surrounded by silence, he felt invisible and forgotten. He went to his teacher and confessed, "I feel so alone." The teacher pointed to a candle burning nearby and said, "Do you see the flame?" The monk nodded. "That flame is not alone." The teacher said, "It carries the light of the sun, the warmth of the wood, the air that feeds it. You are like that flame. You carry the whole universe within you. You are never alone." The monk realized that loneliness had blinded him to the truth of interconnection. The flame, simple and small, reminded him of his belonging. This teaching applies to us all. When loneliness whispers that we are separate, we can look deeply and see the countless conditions that make our life possible. Our breath connects us to trees. Our food connects us to farmers. Our thoughts connect us to teachers long gone. Our laughter connects us to friends. Loneliness is a narrow lens. Awareness broadens the view. And in that broader view, belonging becomes undeniable. It is also helpful to recognize that loneliness, like all emotions, is impermanent. It rises, it lingers, it fades. No feeling lasts forever. When we cling to the belief, "I will always be alone," we suffer more. But when we remember that feelings change, we hold loneliness with gentleness, knowing it will pass. Sometimes, simply whispering to ourselves, "This too will change," brings enough hope to keep walking forward. In time, loneliness itself can become a teacher of love. It teaches us to value connection when it comes, to treasure the smile of a friend, the touch of a hand, the presence of another being. It teaches us not to take relationships for granted, but to nourish them with care and gratitude. Loneliness teaches us empathy. When we know its ache, we are more likely to notice the hidden ache in others and to reach out with kindness. In this way, our own suffering becomes the seed of compassion for the world. Perhaps the greatest gift of loneliness is that it points us back to the truth of who we are. Beneath all connections and separations, we are awareness itself. Awareness is never lonely. It holds all experiences equally. It is the vast sky in which loneliness appears and disappears like a passing cloud. When we rest in awareness, loneliness loses its power to define us. We are no longer a lonely person. We are the space in which loneliness arises and fades. This recognition brings freedom. We may still feel the ache, but it no longer binds us. We know that who we are is far greater than any single feeling. As we close this doorway, we honor loneliness not as an enemy, but as a guide. It has shown us the illusion of separation and the truth of interbeing. It has taught us the value of solitude, the power of compassion, the reality of impermanence. It has reminded us that even in the quietest night, we are connected to all of life. And so, we step forward lighter, wiser, more open. Ahead lies another challenge of the human heart: anger. Just as loneliness isolates us, anger burns us. It rises quickly. It consumes energy. It damages relationships. Yet, like loneliness, it also holds lessons if we know how to look. The next doorway will open into this fire, and together we will learn how Buddhist wisdom cools the flames and reveals the peace hidden beneath. Anger is one of the most explosive emotions we face. It can arrive in an instant, often without warning, like a spark that sets a dry forest ablaze. A single word, a single look, a single memory can ignite it. Anger tightens the chest, quickens the breath, and sharpens the voice. It makes our vision narrow, our patience vanish, and our kindness disappear. In its heat, we say things we regret, we hurt the people we love, and we damage ourselves most of all. Anger promises power, but it leaves destruction. And yet, it is part of being human. To deny anger or to bury it only makes it grow stronger. The challenge is not to get rid of anger, but to transform it in daily life. Anger often hides beneath stress, fear, or hurt. A parent snaps at their child, not because they dislike them, but because they are exhausted. A worker lashes out at a colleague, not because they hate them, but because they feel unappreciated. Anger is often a mask for pain. The Buddha taught that anger, like all emotions, arises from causes and conditions. It does not appear out of nowhere. If we look deeply, we can see its roots: fear, disappointment, sadness, unmet expectations. When we see the root, anger is no longer a monster, but a messenger. It tells us, there is pain here. There is a wound that needs care. The first step in transforming anger is to see it clearly. One story tells of a monk who was insulted by a villager. The monk did not reply. He simply bowed and walked away. Later, another monk asked him, "Why did you not answer back? Why did you let him insult you?" The first monk replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not take it, who does it belong to?" This story illustrates a profound truth. Anger from others is like a gift. If we do not accept it, it stays with them. But if we grab it, hold it, and feed it, it becomes ours. How often do we accept anger like this? We hold on to it, replaying the insult in our mind, burning ourselves again and again. Yet we have the power to put it down, to let it stay where. It came from mindfulness is the key to cooling anger. When we feel the heat rising, we can pause and breathe. The breath becomes like cool water poured onto a flame. At first, this feels impossible. The mind shouts, "I must react, I must defend." But if we breathe, even for a few moments, the intensity softens. The Buddha taught that holding anger is like holding a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. We burn ourselves first. Mindfulness allows us to set the coal down. The fire may still flicker, but it no longer consumes us. A practical practice is mindful walking. When anger surges, instead of exploding, we can step outside, walk slowly, and breathe with each step. With each inhale, we invite calm. With each exhale, we release tension. The ground supports us, the air cools us, the body settles. In this way, we create space before reacting. Space is what anger fears most, because in space, it cannot dominate. With space, we have choice. Without space, anger controls us. Compassion is another medicine for anger. When someone hurts us, our instinct is to strike back. But if we look deeper, we often see that they too are suffering. A person who lashes out is usually carrying pain of their own stress, fear, loneliness, insecurity. Seeing this does not excuse harmful behavior, but it explains it. It softens the edges of our rage. Instead of seeing an enemy, we see another human being trapped in their own suffering. Compassion cools anger the way shade cools the heat of the sun. It allows us to respond with clarity rather than vengeance. Consider a parent who yells at their child. If the child yells back, the cycle continues, growing hotter. But if the child pauses and sees that the parent is tired, worried, or overwhelmed, they may respond differently. They may choose silence or gentleness, breaking the cycle. In the same way, we can break cycles of anger in our own lives by seeing the suffering behind the words. Compassion does not mean we allow abuse. It means we protect ourselves while refusing to let hatred rule our hearts. Forgiveness is another powerful path. Holding on to anger is heavy. It drains energy and clouds joy. Forgiveness is not about forgetting or approving of harm. It is about choosing not to carry the burden anymore. When we forgive, we free ourselves. The other person may never change, but we are no longer chained to them by resentment. Forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves. It is the choice to live light, to breathe freely, to walk forward without the weight of the past. The Buddha also spoke of loving kindness meditation as an antidote to anger. In this practice, we repeat phrases of goodwill, first for ourselves, then for loved ones, then for those we struggle with, and finally for all beings. Phrases like, "May I be safe," "May I be peaceful," "May I live with ease," and then, "May you be safe," "May you be peaceful," "May you live with ease." At first, it feels difficult to send kindness to someone who hurt us, but slowly the heart softens. We realize that wishing them peace is also wishing for the end of harm, for them and for us. Loving kindness dissolves the walls of anger and opens the door to connection. Anger also teaches us about impermanence. No matter how strong it feels, it cannot last forever. It rises, peaks, and fades like a storm passing through. If we can ride out the storm without acting destructively, we find that the sky clears again. This truth gives us strength. When anger surges, we can remind ourselves, this too will pass. We do not need to become the storm. We can be the sky that holds a dot as we sit with anger. We also see that it often points to values we hold dear. We get angry when we feel fairness is broken, when kindness is denied, when love is betrayed. Anger, in this sense, shows us what matters. To us, it is a call to action, but action guided by wisdom, not by rage. When transformed, anger can become courage, the courage to stand for justice, to protect the vulnerable, to create change. The Buddha never said we must be passive. He taught us to act from clarity and compassion, not from blind heat. In this way, anger becomes not a destroyer, but a teacher. Anger does not only flare in great explosions. It can also live quietly, smoldering like embers beneath the surface. Many people carry silent anger for years. Anger toward parents, anger toward society, anger toward themselves. This hidden anger shapes decisions, poisons relationships, and clouds joy. We may smile on the outside, while bitterness eats away within. This kind of anger is perhaps more dangerous than the loud kind because it hides, unspoken, and unresolved. Buddhist wisdom teaches us not to fear anger, but to bring it into the light. Only then can it be healed. One way to bring anger into the light is through mindfulness of the body. Anger is not only a thought, it is a sensation. It tightens the jaw, heats the chest, knots the stomach. When we turn attention to these sensations, without judgment, we create space. We notice, this is how anger feels in my body. Already the spell begins to break. Instead of being lost in the story, what they said, what they did, we return to the raw energy of the present moment. That energy, when observed, begins to shift. What once felt unbearable softens with awareness. The body teaches us that even the hottest flame cools when not fed. Another way is to write. Putting anger into words on paper creates distance. Instead of carrying the fire inside, we place it outside where we can see it. Writing allows the tangled emotions to unravel. Often, once the words are out, clarity comes. We see not only the surface anger, but the deeper wound beneath it, perhaps a need for respect, a longing for love, a fear of being abandoned. Anger almost always points to something tender underneath. When we discover that tenderness, compassion, arises naturally, the enemy becomes a fellow human being with wounds of their own, and we ourselves stop being consumed by the fire. There is a story of two monks traveling together. One day, they came to a river where a woman stood, unable to cross. One monk immediately offered to carry her on his back. After crossing, he set her down, and they continued their journey. Hours later, the second monk burst out, "Why did you carry that woman? We monks are not supposed to touch women." The first monk smiled and said, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story shows how anger works. We carry the weight of old events, replaying them again and again, long after they are over. The event itself is gone, but we keep carrying it in our minds. Freedom comes when we finally set it down. Forgiving ourselves is just as important as forgiving others. Many people feel angry at themselves for past mistakes. They punish themselves with harsh words, reliving regret over and over. But Buddhist practice reminds us that self-anger is also suffering. We cannot heal the past by beating ourselves. We heal by understanding. To look at our younger self with compassion is to see someone doing their best with the tools they had at the time. When we soften toward ourselves, healing begins. This self-compassion then radiates outward, making it easier to forgive others. 2. Generosity is another powerful antidote to anger. When we give, even a little, we shift the energy from contraction to expansion. Anger narrows the heart, makes it small and tight. Generosity opens it again. Helping a neighbor, offering a kind word, giving time or presence. These acts restore balance. They remind us that beneath anger, there is still goodness, still love, still the capacity to connect. Each act of generosity is like water on the fire, cooling and cleansing. Meditation on loving kindness or metta is perhaps the most direct practice. We sit quietly and repeat phrases. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be free from suffering. Then we extend these wishes outward to loved ones, to neutral people, even to those who have hurt us. At first, this may feel impossible. The heart resists. But with practice, even small moments of sincerity soften the anger. Over time, what once felt like a stone wall becomes a door. Loving kindness reveals that no heart is beyond healing, not even our own. Anger also invites us to examine the stories we tell ourselves. Often, anger is fueled not by what happened, but by the meaning we attach to it. Someone cuts us off in traffic, and we tell ourselves, they disrespected me. A colleague interrupts us, and we think, they don't value me. These stories add layers to the raw event, making the anger larger than it needs to be. Buddhist. Practice invites us to pause and question. Is the story true? Could there be another explanation? Perhaps the driver was rushing to the hospital. Perhaps the colleague was nervous and did not realize. By questioning our stories, we loosen anger's grip and open space for understanding. Impermanence, once again, is a great teacher. Anger feels permanent when it burns hot, but no flame lasts forever. If we can wait, breathe, and not act in the heat of the moment, the fire will cool. Many regrets come from speaking or acting while the flame was high. Waiting is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is choosing to let the storm pass before deciding how to respond. In this way, we protect ourselves and others from harm. In the end, anger is not something to fear or hate. It is energy, neither good nor bad, that can destroy if left unchecked or heal if transformed. When we meet it with mindfulness, compassion, forgiveness, and patience, anger becomes a teacher. It shows us our wounds, our values, our longing for justice. It can motivate us to act with courage, but only if guided by wisdom. Without wisdom, anger burns. With wisdom, anger illuminates. As we step forward, we leave behind the fire of anger and prepare to face another shadow of the human condition: attachment. Just as anger binds us with flames, attachment binds us with chains. We cling to possessions, to people, to identities, and in clinging we suffer. The next doorway will reveal how Buddhist wisdom transforms attachment into freedom, showing us the joy of holding life lightly. Attachment is one of the deepest roots of human suffering. It hides beneath many of our struggles: stress, money, relationships, even anger. At first glance, attachment looks like love or care. We say, I cannot live without this person, or I will only be happy when I have this thing. But attachment is not the same as love. True love is spacious and freeing. Attachment is tight and heavy. Love says, I want you to be happy. Attachment says, I need you to make me happy. And when the object of our attachment changes, leaves or disappears, as all things eventually do, we suffer. The Buddha described attachment as holding onto a rope that is burning our hands. The tighter we grip, the more pain we feel. Yet letting go feels terrifying, so we hold on even tighter. This is the cycle of attachment. We cling to people, possessions, achievements, and even identities. We believe they will secure our happiness. But because everything is impermanent, clinging only guarantees heartbreak. The truth is simple yet difficult to accept. Nothing we hold on to lasts forever. But within this truth lies freedom. When we stop clinging, we discover that happiness is not in possession, but in presence. Consider a child with a toy. The child clutches it tightly, terrified of losing it. If another child comes near, fear and anger appear. But when the child grows older, the toy no longer matters. It is left behind without sorrow. The object has not changed. The attachment has. In the same way, many of the things we cling to as adults, status, possessions, even relationships may one day be seen as toys. We will look back and wonder why we held on so tightly. This perspective does not mean we should not enjoy life. It means we learn to enjoy without clinging, to hold gently, to love fully, but to release when it is time. One story tells of a monk who owned a beautiful porcelain cup. He loved the cup's delicate design and its usefulness in daily life. But he always reminded himself, this cup is already broken. He knew that one day it would crack or shatter, as all things eventually do. By remembering its impermanence, he enjoyed it fully while it lasted, but he was not destroyed when it broke. This is the wisdom of non-attachment. It does not mean we stop caring. It means we care without chains. We enjoy life while it lasts, but we are not imprisoned by the illusion that it must last forever. Attachment also appears in our relationships. We often confuse love with possession. We say, "You are mine," or "Without you, I am nothing." But this is not love. It is fear disguised as love. True love allows freedom. True love says, "I want you to be happy, even if it is not with me." This may sound impossible, but it is the deepest expression of love. When we cling, we suffocate. When we release, love can breathe. The Buddha spoke of the 4 immeasurable qualities of true love: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Each of these points away from attachment and toward freedom. Loving kindness seeks the happiness of the other. Compassion responds to their suffering. Joy celebrates their joy as our own. Equanimity accepts change with balance. Together, these qualities create a love that is strong yet free. Possessions are another trap of attachment. We spend years chasing objects, believing they will bring lasting happiness. A bigger house, a newer car, the latest technology. And for a moment, they do bring pleasure. But soon the shine fades, and we begin chasing again. This endless cycle leaves us restless and unsatisfied. Buddhist teaching reminds us that possessions can be useful, but they cannot bring true peace. When we cling to them, we become their servants. When we use them wisely, without attachment, they serve us. Simplicity is not about denying ourselves comfort. It is about refusing to let possessions define our worth. Attachment even appears in how we see ourselves. We cling to identities, our job, our role, our achievements, even our failures. We say, "I am this kind of person. I am not that kind of person." But these labels are fragile. A job can be lost. A role can change. Achievements can fade. Failures can be forgotten. When we cling to them, we suffer each time they shift. The Buddha taught the wisdom of non-self not as a denial of existence, but as freedom from fixed identity. We are not only one role, one label, one story. We are living beings, ever changing, like rivers that never stay the same. When we stop clinging to identity, we discover a deeper freedom, the freedom to simply be. Mindfulness helps us see attachment in real time. When we crave something, we pause and notice. What does craving feel like in the body? Perhaps a tightening in the chest, a restless energy in the hands, a racing in the mind. When we bring awareness to craving, we see it clearly. We notice how it promises happiness, but often brings only more craving. This clarity weakens its power. The grip loosens. We realize we can live without the thing we thought was essential. And in that realization, freedom blossoms. Non-attachment does not mean detachment. It does not mean coldness or indifference. It means loving more deeply, because we love without fear. Imagine holding a bird. If you grip too tightly, you harm it. If you hold gently, it can rest in your hand, and if it flies away, you can still smile. This is the essence of non-attachment. It allows us to love, to enjoy, to live fully, but without chains. It transforms life from a desperate struggle to keep things the same into a joyful dance with IMPERMANENCE as we explore attachment. We see how much of our suffering comes not from life itself, but from the way we cling to life. We cling to people, to objects, to identities, to feelings, and in clinging, we suffer. But when we let go, we discover space, peace, and joy. Letting go does not mean losing. It means gaining freedom. It means discovering that the true treasure was never outside of us. It was always within. Attachment is not only about what we hold in our hands. It is also about what we hold in our minds and hearts. Sometimes we cling to memories of the past. We replay moments of joy, wishing they would return, or moments of pain, refusing to let them go. The past becomes a prison, shaping our present. At other times, we cling to hopes for the future, imagining that happiness will arrive only when certain conditions are met. We say, "When I get this job, I will finally feel secure. When I find the right partner, I will finally be whole." But both past and future are illusions. They exist only in thought. The only reality is the present moment, and yet our attachment pulls us away from it again and again. Buddhist practice invites us back, reminding us that peace is always here now if only we let go. One story tells of a farmer whose old horse ran away. The neighbors said, "How unlucky." But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returned with several wild horses. The neighbors said, "How fortunate." The farmer replied again, "Maybe." Later, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses and broke his leg. The neighbors cried, "How unlucky." Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." Soon after, soldiers came to the village to recruit young men for war, but because the son had a broken leg, he was spared. What seemed like loss became protection. What seemed like fortune became challenge. The story shows us how attachment to fixed outcomes blinds us. Life is ever-changing, and clinging to one version of how it should be only creates suffering. Freedom comes from resting in the flow, not gripping the branches as the river moves. Attachment also hides in subtle forms, such as our opinions and beliefs. We often cling tightly to being right, to having the correct view, to defending our perspective. Arguments escalate not because of the facts, but because of the attachment to identity. If I am wrong, then who am I? The Buddha encouraged an attitude of openness, a willingness to question even our own views. This humility softens attachment and creates space for growth. When we let go of needing to be right, we open ourselves to truth that is larger than our own perspective. This letting go is not weakness. It is strength, the strength to learn, to grow, to change. Non-attachment does not mean giving up passion or commitment. It means engaging fully, but without fear. A gardener plants seeds with care, waters them with love, but does not cling to the outcome. Some seeds sprout, some do not. Some flowers bloom brightly, others wither quickly. The gardener continues with joy because the act of tending itself is fulfilling. In the same way, we can live with passion and dedication, but without the chain of attachment to results. We give our best, but we do not tie our worth to success or failure. This is freedom in action. Attachment is also deeply connected to the fear of death. We cling to life itself, terrified of its end. This fear makes us desperate to hold on to youth, to health, to achievements, to legacies. But the Buddha taught that life and death are not enemies. They are parts of the same cycle. To resist death is to resist life, because everything that is born will one day pass away. When we accept this, we live more fully. Each moment becomes precious, not because it will last forever, but because it will not. Just as a flower is beautiful precisely because it will fade, life is beautiful precisely because it is fleeting. Non-attachment to life does not mean despair. It means appreciation, gratitude, and presence. There is a famous teaching about a person holding a rope dangling over a cliff. Below them is a pit of danger. Above them, mice gnaw slowly at the rope. In front of them, they see a wild strawberry. In that moment, instead of clinging to fear, they reach out and taste the strawberry. It is sweet, and it is enough. This story is a metaphor for life. We are all hanging by a rope, with death inevitable. We can spend our lives in fear, clinging to what cannot last, or we can taste the sweetness of the present moment. Non-attachment allows us to enjoy the strawberry fully, without being consumed by fear of loss. Letting go is often misunderstood as abandonment. People worry that if they let go, they will stop caring, stop loving, stop striving. But letting go does not mean pushing away. It means holding with open hands instead of clenched fists. It means allowing people, possessions, and experiences to come and go naturally without trying to trap them. This openness actually deepens love, because love no longer comes from fear. Imagine standing at the shore, watching waves rise and fall. You do not try to catch them. You simply enjoy them as they come, knowing they will also go. Life, too, is like this sea. To cling is to suffer. To let go is to be free. Non-attachment also transforms suffering itself. When pain comes, physical or emotional, our instinct is to resist, to push it away, to say, "This should not be." But resistance is another form of attachment, the attachment to comfort, to ease, to control. When we soften and allow pain to be present, it often changes. It becomes less sharp, less overwhelming. We discover that suffering itself is impermanent, that we can sit with it without being destroyed. This practice builds resilience. It teaches us that freedom is not the absence of suffering, but the ability to meet suffering without chains. In the end, attachment is not about love, possessions, or identity themselves. It is about the way we hold them. When we cling, we suffer. When we release, we discover peace. The Buddha called this release nirvana, the cooling of the fires of craving and clinging. It is not a distant goal, but a present reality, tasted each time we let go even a little. The joy of letting go is immediate. It is like setting down a heavy load after carrying it too long. The body feels lighter, the mind clearer, the heart freer. As we step forward, we carry this wisdom with us. Stress taught us to breathe. Money taught us to live with generosity. Relationships taught us to love without possession. Anxiety taught us to trust the present. Loneliness taught us to see interconnection. Anger taught us to transform fire into light. Attachment now has taught us to hold gently and to let go. Ahead lies another shadow that many in the modern world know too well: addiction. Just as attachment binds us, addiction enslaves us more deeply. The next doorway will show us how Buddhist wisdom offers freedom from the endless cycle of craving that drives addiction, guiding us toward a life of balance and clarity. Addiction is one of the clearest expressions of suffering in the modern world. It can take many forms: alcohol, drugs, gambling, shopping, food, work, sex, technology. Some addictions are visible, destroying health and relationships. Others are hidden, accepted by society, even praised. But all addictions share the same root: craving that cannot be satisfied. Addiction is like drinking salt water. The more we consume, the thirstier we become. What promises relief only deepens the hunger. What promises freedom only creates chains. At the heart of addiction is a search for escape. We feel pain, stress, loneliness, emptiness, and we reach for something to numb it. For a while, it works. The drink soothes, the purchase excites, the game distracts, the phone entertains, but the relief is temporary. When it fades, the pain returns, often stronger than before. And so the cycle repeats, deeper each time. Addiction is not about weakness or morality. It is about suffering and the mistaken ways we try to heal it. The Buddha understood this well. He saw that craving is at the root of all suffering, and that freedom comes not from feeding craving, but from understanding and releasing it. Consider the story of a man who drinks each night to quiet his restless mind. At first, 1 glass is enough, then 2, then 3. Soon, he cannot sleep without it. A drink, once a comfort, becomes a prison. Or think of a young woman who scrolls endlessly on her phone, chasing likes and comments. For a moment, she feels noticed, connected. But when the screen goes dark, she feels more empty than before. Addiction always begins with a promise and ends with a chain. It is the illusion of control that turns into loss of control. Buddhist wisdom does not condemn those caught in addiction. It offers compassion and a path of healing. The first step is awareness. We must see clearly what is happening. To ask ourselves, what am I running from? What am I seeking? Does this really bring me peace, or does it deepen my suffering? Often, the act of looking deeply breaks the spell. When we see the truth of our behavior, we can no longer lie to ourselves. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. Mindfulness is a powerful tool in this healing. Instead of reaching automatically for the substance or behavior, we pause. We notice the craving as it arises. What does it feel like in the body? Perhaps a restlessness in the hands, a tightness in the chest, a racing of thoughts. We breathe and observe without judgment. This pause creates space. The craving may still be strong, but we are no longer its prisoner. We realize we have a choice, to act or not to act. Each time we choose awareness over compulsion, the chains grow weaker. Compassion is equally essential. Many people trapped in addiction hate themselves. They say, I am weak, I am broken. This shame fuels the cycle because shame itself is painful, and the person turns again to the addiction to escape it. The Buddha taught self-compassion as the antidote. To place a hand on the heart and whisper, I am suffering. I am doing my best. May I be free. This kindness does not excuse harmful behavior, but it creates the inner safety needed for change. Healing cannot grow in soil of self-hatred. It grows in soil of self-understanding. Community is another pillar of healing. Addiction thrives in secrecy and isolation. When we hide, the craving grows stronger. When we share, the burden lessens. This is why the Sangha, or spiritual community, is so important in Buddhism. Practicing together, supporting one another, creates strength that an individual alone may not find. Even in modern recovery programs, community is central. Hearing others' stories reminds us we are not alone. Offering our own story helps others. Connection dissolves isolation, and in that connection, healing begins. Meditation on impermanence also supports freedom from addiction. Craving feels endless when we are in its grip, but in truth, every craving rises, peaks, and falls. If we can ride the wave without acting, the urge eventually passes. This is like watching a storm in the sky. At first, the clouds are dark and heavy, the wind fierce. But no storm lasts forever. Soon, the sky clears. By remembering impermanence, we find strength to sit with craving, knowing it will not destroy us. Each time we endure without feeding it, we grow stronger. It is also important to see that addiction is not only about substances or habits. It is about the mind itself. We can be addicted to anger, to worry, to control, to perfection. The Buddha called this the endless cycle of craving. The object changes, but the pattern remains. Freedom does not come from changing objects, but from changing our relationship to craving itself. When we see craving clearly, we stop being its slave. We discover that peace is not in the next drink, the next purchase, the next achievement. Peace is in letting go. Generosity is a beautiful practice for breaking the cycle. Addiction is rooted in self-centeredness, my pain, my craving, my relief. Generosity shifts the focus outward. When we give to others our time, our care, our presence, we remember that life is larger than our cravings. The joy of giving is deeper and more lasting than the fleeting thrill of addiction. It nourishes the heart in ways no substance can. Each act of generosity plants seeds of freedom. Addiction is often described as being trapped in a cage. The Buddha showed us that the key to that cage is already in our hands. The key is awareness, compassion, community, impermanence, generosity. These are not abstract ideas. They are practical steps available in each moment. Every breath is a chance to pause. Every act of kindness is a chance to heal. Every moment of awareness is a crack in the cage. With practice, those cracks widen until the walls collapse. As we stand here, looking at the chains of addiction, we do not turn away in judgment. We turn toward them with compassion. We remember that beneath every craving is a longing for peace, a longing for relief, a longing for love. Addiction is a mistaken path to meet those longings. The Buddha's path offers another way, not through escape, but through presence. Not through craving, but through release. Not through chains, but through freedom. Addiction is not only about substances or habits that harm us. It is also about the restless mind that always wants more. We can be addicted to praise, to success, to being busy, to constant stimulation. These addictions are harder to see because they are often rewarded by society. A person addicted to alcohol may be judged, but a person addicted to work may be admired. Yet both are caught in the same trap, craving that never ends. The Buddha called this the wheel of becoming, the endless cycle of desire leading to suffering. Whether the object is a drink or a promotion, the cycle is the same. We chase, we consume, we feel brief satisfaction, then emptiness, then we chase. Again, this endless hunger comes from forgetting our true nature. We believe we are incomplete, that something outside us must fill the emptiness inside. Addiction feeds on this belief. It whispers, "You are not enough, but this will make you enough." And for a moment, we believe it. But the moment fades, and the emptiness returns deeper than before. The Buddha's wisdom points us to a different truth. We are already whole. Peace is not something to acquire. It is something to uncover. Addiction hides it, but it does not destroy it. Each moment of mindfulness, each act of compassion, each step of letting go, clears away the clouds and reveals the sky that was always there. One practice that supports healing is replacing craving with nourishment. When the urge arises, instead of reaching for the harmful behavior, we ask, what does my heart really need? Often, the craving is a distorted form of a true need. Alcohol may be a distorted search for relaxation. Endless scrolling may be a distorted search for connection. Overeating may be a distorted search for comfort. When we look deeply, we can find healthier ways to meet these needs. Rest instead of alcohol. True friendship instead of screens. Self-compassion instead of food. By nourishing the real need, we weaken the grip of the false solution. There is also wisdom in patience. Healing from addiction is rarely quick. It is a path of small steps, setbacks, and persistence. The Buddha compared practice to training an ox. At first, it pulls wildly, resisting control. But with gentle persistence, it learns to walk steadily. In the same way, the mind resists change, craving returns, old habits resurface. But if we continue with patience, each moment of awareness strengthens us. We learn to trust the path, not perfection. Each step is progress, even if small. Stories from the Buddhist tradition remind us that transformation is possible. There was once a man named Angulimala, a notorious bandit who killed many. His addiction was violence. But when he encountered the Buddha, something shifted. The Buddha did not meet him with hatred, but with compassion. Angulimala laid down his weapons, became a monk, and transformed his life completely. His story shows that no one is beyond redemption. Addiction may feel like a life sentence, but transformation is always possible. Compassion, patience, and awareness can change even the darkest path. Addiction also teaches us about impermanence. Every craving feels overwhelming, but it passes. If we can breathe and wait, the urge weakens. This truth gives us courage. We realize we do not need to obey every impulse. We can watch it rise and fall like a wave. Each time we resist, even for a few moments, we grow stronger. Each time we remember impermanence, we discover freedom. This practice builds resilience, teaching us that we are larger than our cravings. Generosity and service are also essential. Addiction shrinks our world to one obsession. It makes us self-centered, consumed by my need, my relief, my craving. But when we turn outward and help others, the walls of obsession crack. Service expands the heart. It reminds us of our place in the larger web of life. When we feed someone hungry, listen to someone lonely, or care for someone sick, we remember. That joy comes not from taking, but from giving. This joy is lasting, unlike the fleeting thrill of addiction. It nourishes the heart in ways no substance or habit can. Meditation on loving kindness is another powerful practice. When addiction whispers shame, "You are weak, you are broken," answer with kindness. We repeat, "May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease." At first, the words may feel false, but slowly they sink in. The heart softens. We begin to see ourselves not as failures, but as human beings on a path of healing. When we extend these wishes to others, especially those also struggling, compassion grows. Loving kindness breaks the isolation of addiction and connects us to the shared humanity of all beings. Ultimately, freedom from addiction is not about denying pleasure or living in strict restraint. It is about discovering a deeper joy that does not depend on substances or compulsions, joy that comes from presence, compassion, and wisdom. The Buddha called this the highest happiness, a peace that cannot be shaken by external conditions. This joy is not loud or flashy. It is quiet, steady, and profound. It is the joy of sitting in the present moment and knowing, I am enough. This is enough. As we close this doorway, we honor the struggle of addiction and the courage it takes. To face it, we remember that beneath every craving is a longing for peace. We remember that healing is possible, that transformation is real. And we carry forward the tools of awareness, compassion, impermanence, and generosity as keys to freedom. Now we turn to another form of suffering that weighs heavily on the human heart: grief. Just as addiction shows us the endless hunger of craving, grief shows us the depth of loss. It arrives when someone we love is gone, when life changes in ways we cannot control, when the heart is broken by impermanence. The next doorway will open into this tender pain, and together we will see how Buddhist wisdom holds grief with compassion and reveals the possibility of healing even in sorrow. Grief is one of the most profound and universal experiences of being human. It comes when someone we love is gone, when life takes a turn we never expected, when the heart feels shattered beyond repair. Grief can feel like a heavy stone on the chest, making it hard to breathe. It can feel like an endless wave, crashing again and again without mercy. It can feel like a silence so deep that words cannot reach it. Each person's grief is unique, yet all grief shares the same truth. It is the price of love. We grieve because we have loved, because we have cared deeply, because something precious has been lost. In the modern world, grief is often hidden. Society encourages us to move on quickly, to smile again, to return to work as if nothing happened. People may say, "Time heals all wounds," or "they are in a better place." While well-meaning, these words can feel hollow. The grieving heart knows that no phrase can erase the ache. Grief is not something to be rushed or fixed. It is something to be honored, to be walked through with patience and compassion. Buddhist wisdom does not deny grief. It does not say, "Do not feel." Instead, it says, "Feel fully, look deeply, hold gently." In this way, grief becomes not only pain, but also a teacher. The Buddha himself experienced grief. When his own disciples died, when his family members passed away, he felt the ache of loss. He did not hide it. He acknowledged it, and he taught that grief is part of the human condition. To live is to face impermanence. Everything that is born will one day pass away. This truth is painful, but it is also liberating. For when we accept impermanence, we stop clinging to the impossible dream that things will last forever. We learn instead to cherish what we have while we have it, and to release it when it is gone. One story tells of a woman named Kissa Gotami, whose young child died suddenly. Overcome with grief, she carried her child's body through the village, begging for medicine to bring him back. People pitied her, but no one could help. At last, she came to the Buddha. He told her, "Bring me a mustard seed from a household that has never known death." Desperate, she went from house to house. But everywhere she went, people told her of their own losses: a parent, a spouse, a child. She returned to the Buddha with empty hands, but with new understanding. Death had touched every family. She was not alone. Her grief was shared by all of humanity. This story shows the power of perspective. When grief convinces us that we are isolated, remembering the universality of loss can soften the ache. We are not alone in our sorrow. Others have walked this path, and their footsteps can guide us. Still, grief hurts deeply. It is not lessened by logic or philosophy. It is felt in the body, in the heart, in the spirit. Buddhist practice invites us to meet this pain with mindfulness. Instead of pushing it away, we sit with it. We breathe into the heaviness, the tears, the emptiness. We say, "This is grief. This is how it feels." By naming it, we create space around it. We stop drowning in it and begin to hold it gently, like a crying child. This does not erase the pain, but it transforms our relationship to it. We are no longer at war with grief. We are in companionship with it. Compassion is essential in this process. Often, people judge themselves in grief. They say, "I should be stronger. I should be over this by now." But grief has no timetable. It takes the time it takes. The Buddha compared grief to a wound. Just as the body needs time to heal from injury, the heart needs time to heal from loss. Rushing it only makes the wound deeper. Compassion says, it is okay to hurt. It is okay to take time. It is okay to cry. This gentleness is the balm that allows healing to slowly unfold. Ritual can also support the grieving heart. Lighting a candle, saying a prayer, placing flowers on a grave. These small acts create space for grief to be expressed and honored. They remind us that love does not end with death. Love continues in memory, in gratitude, in the ways we carry the departed, in our actions. In Buddhist tradition, chanting and ceremonies are ways to honor the dead and comfort the living. But even simple rituals at home can provide the same comfort. Ritual gives grief a container, a shape, a way to move. Meditation on impermanence can also help. At first, the truth that all things pass may feel like salt in the wound, but over time, it brings perspective. Impermanence is not cruelty. It is the natural rhythm of life. Just as flowers bloom and fade, just as seasons change, so too do human lives come and go. Remembering this does not erase grief, but it helps us hold it with more balance. It allows us to honor the beauty of what was, instead of being destroyed by the fact that it could not last in the end. Grief is not something to overcome. It is something to integrate. The pain may soften, but the love remains. The person we lost becomes part of us in our memories, in our choices, in the way we live. Grief transforms love into legacy. And this legacy, carried forward, is a way of saying, you are gone, but you are not forgotten. You live on in me. This transformation is not quick or easy, but it is real. It turns the ache of loss into the light of remembrance. Grief changes us. It is not something we pass through unchanged, returning to who we were before. It reshapes the heart, alters our view of life, and deepens our capacity to feel. At first, this change feels unbearable. We may resist it, longing for the life we had before the loss. But slowly, if we allow it, grief can open us to wisdom and compassion that were hidden before. The cracks in the heart let in new light. The pain softens into tenderness, and tenderness becomes a source of connection to all who suffer. One of the lessons grief teaches is the depth of impermanence. Before loss, we may speak of impermanence as an idea. After loss, we feel it in our bones. We know in the deepest way that nothing lasts forever. This truth is painful, but it is also precious. It teaches us to cherish each moment, each smile, each touch, because we know it will not last. Instead of clinging, we learn to savor. Instead of rushing, we learn to pause. Grief becomes a teacher, reminding us of the fragility and beauty of life. Another lesson of grief is compassion. When we have walked through the valley of loss, we recognize its landscape in others. We notice the quiet sadness in a friend's eyes. We understand the silence of someone who cannot find words. We reach out with kindness, not because we know exactly what to say, but because we know what it feels like to have no words. Our own grief becomes the seed of empathy. In this way, suffering is transformed into connection. The heart that was broken becomes the heart that can heal others. There is a story of two men who lost their sons. One was consumed by bitterness, closing himself off from the world. The other allowed his grief to deepen his compassion, becoming a source of comfort for others. The same loss, but two paths. Buddhist practice encourages us toward the second path, not by denying our pain, but by using it as a doorway to love. When grief teaches us to open instead of close, we honor both, our pain and our love. Mindfulness supports this transformation. In grief, the mind often clings to if only thoughts. If only I had said this. If only I had done that. If only things had been different. These thoughts can torment us endlessly. Mindfulness brings us back to the present. It reminds us that the past cannot be changed, but the present can be lived. Each breath is an anchor. Each step is a reminder. I am here, I am alive, I can carry their memory forward. This shift does not erase regret, but it loosens its grip, allowing space for healing. Ritual and remembrance also play a role. Creating a space in the home with a photo, lighting a candle each evening, telling stories about the person who is gone. All of these keep love alive in healthy ways. They allow us to continue the relationship in a new form. The person may no longer be here in body, but they live in memory, in influence, in spirit. Love does not end at death. It transforms. Grief is the process of learning to live with that. Transformation. Forgiveness is sometimes part of grief. We may need to forgive the one who left for things unsaid or unresolved. We may need to forgive ourselves for mistakes, for not being there, for words spoken in haste. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means choosing not to carry bitterness into the future. It is a gift we give both to the one who is gone and to ourselves. Forgiveness turns grief into peace, slowly, gently, one breath at a time. Meditation on loving kindness is especially powerful here. Sitting quietly, we can send thoughts of peace to the one we lost. May you be safe. May you be free. May you rest in peace. Then we send the same thoughts to ourselves. May I be gentle with my pain. May I find peace in my sorrow. May I carry your love forward. These phrases do not erase grief, but they wrap it in compassion. They soften the sharp edges, reminding us that love is still alive. Nature also helps us walk through grief. Watching the sunrise, hearing the waves of the ocean, seeing flowers bloom and fade, these remind us that life and death are part of the same cycle. Just as winter gives way to spring, sorrow can give way to hope. Not because we forget, but because life itself continues to offer beauty, even in the midst of loss. To walk in nature is to walk with the truth of impermanence, and in that truth, we may find quiet comfort. Ultimately, grief is not something to escape, but something to embrace. It is proof of love. To grieve deeply is to have loved deeply. And love is never wasted. It continues in us, in the ways we live, in the ways we treat others, in the ways we honor those who are gone. Grief shapes us, but it does not destroy us. It invites us to grow, to open, to live more fully aware of the preciousness of each moment. As we close this doorway, we carry with us the lessons of grief. We know that loss is real, but so is love. We know that sorrow is heavy, but compassion can grow from it. We know that impermanence takes away, but it also gives meaning. And so we walk forward, tender but strong, broken but open. Ahead lies the final doorway of our journey, fear of death itself. If grief is the ache of losing others, fear of death is the ache of facing our own impermanence. In this last exploration, we will see how Buddhist wisdom meets death not with terror, but with peace, showing us that even in the face of the unknown, there can be freedom. Death is the final frontier of human fear. It is the shadow that follows us from birth, the silent truth we rarely want to face. We avoid the topic, we whisper the word, we pretend it is far away. Yet no matter who we are, rich or poor, strong or weak, young or old, death will come. The body will stop, the breath will cease, and life as we know it will change. This truth can feel unbearable. Many live with a quiet dread of death, fearing the unknown, fearing pain, fearing disappearance. And yet, Buddhist wisdom tells us that facing death is not only possible, but liberating. By understanding death, we learn how to truly live. In the modern world, death is often hidden. Hospitals and machines shield us from the process. Funerals are brief, grief is rushed, and then people are expected to move on. But deep inside, the fear remains. It shows up as anxiety, as the desperate search for youth, as the endless drive to achieve. Underneath many of our struggles is this single fear, the fear of not existing. The Buddha saw this fear clearly. He taught that freedom comes not from denying death, but from looking deeply into it, seeing it as part of life rather than its enemy. Imagine a candle burning in the night. Its flame glows, warms, and lights the darkness. Eventually, the flame will go out. But does it vanish into nothing? Or does it transform into heat, into smoke, into energy that continues in new forms? In the same way, life does not end absolutely. The body dissolves, but the elements return to the earth. The influence continues in others. The love continues in memories. Death is not annihilation. It is transformation. To see this clearly is to release the fear of nothingness. The Buddha often compared life to a river. The water flows, always changing, never the same from one moment to the next. Where is the beginning? Where is the end? Each drop merges with others. Each current moves forward. Death, in this image, is not a wall, but a continuation. The river flows on, beyond what we can see. When we cling to the illusion of permanence, death terrifies us. When we understand the flow, death becomes natural. It is not the opposite of life, but part of its rhythm. Fear of death often comes from attachment to the body, to possessions, to relationships, to identity. We say, "This is mine, this is me, I cannot lose it." But all of it is temporary. The body ages, possessions break, relationships change, identities shift. Death is the great reminder of impermanence. Instead of resisting, Buddhist wisdom invites us to accept, to say, yes, this too will pass. This acceptance does not mean despair, it means freedom. When we no longer cling desperately, we live more fully. Each breath becomes precious. Each moment becomes a gift. One story tells of a king who asked his wise advisor for a sentence that would always be true, in good times and bad. The advisor replied, "This too shall pass." The king was pleased at first, then troubled. For when he was happy, he remembered it would not last. And when he was sad, he remembered it would not last. The wisdom of the phrase is in its balance. Joy and sorrow, life and death, none are permanent. Death is not an interruption of life. It is part of the same passing flow. Mindfulness of death, or Maranasati, is a central Buddhist practice. It may sound morbid, but it brings clarity. By remembering that death can come at any time, we stop wasting life. We stop clinging to trivial things. We forgive more quickly, love more deeply, live more fully. Each morning we can say, "This day may be my last. How shall I live it?" Instead of fear, this brings aliveness. It cuts through distraction and reminds us of what truly matters. Death awareness is not about obsession. It is about liberation. It turns fear into wisdom. That meditation also helps us face death with peace. By observing thoughts, feelings, and sensations as passing, we practice letting go even before the final letting go. We realize we are not the body, not the thoughts, not the emotions. We are the awareness in which they appear and disappear. This recognition brings deep peace. If we are not only the body, then death is not the end. Awareness remains vast and open, like the sky, even as clouds come and go. To rest in this awareness is to meet death not with fear, but with trust. Compassion is also important. Fear of death often isolates us, making us feel alone in our fate. But when we remember that everyone faces death, the fear softens. We are not alone. Every person, every creature, every being shares this journey. This shared destiny connects us. It invites us to live with kindness, knowing that all hearts beat toward the same end. Compassion transforms fear into solidarity. It turns death from a lonely shadow into a reminder of our shared humanity. Ultimately, death teaches us to live. When we accept that time is limited, we stop postponing joy. We stop saying, "One day I will rest. One day I will love. One day I will be free." We realize that life is happening now. The Buddha taught that the greatest preparation for death is to live each day with mindfulness. compassion, and non-attachment. When death comes, we can greet it not as an enemy, but as a friend who reminds us of the preciousness of life. Death, when faced with fear, appears as darkness. But when faced with wisdom, it appears as a doorway. It is the final teaching of impermanence, the closing of one chapter, the opening of another. We may not know what lies beyond, but we know this: everything that has ever lived has walked this path, and we too will walk it. The fear comes from clinging to what we cannot keep. The peace comes from letting go with trust. One story tells of a monk who sat calmly as he was dying. His students gathered, weeping, asking, "Master, are you not afraid?" The monk smiled and replied, "Where could I go? I am already home." This story captures the essence of Buddhist wisdom. When we live with awareness, when we see ourselves as part of the great web of existence, death is not exile. It is return. The body dissolves, the breath ceases, but the essence remains connected to all. There is no need for fear when we see that we were never separate to begin with. Meditation on death can bring this peace even while we live. Sitting quietly, we imagine our own final breath. We see the body resting, the breath leaving, the mind letting go. At first, this practice may bring fear, but with time, it brings freedom. We realize that death is not the opposite of life. It is part of life. By rehearsing the letting go, we learn to live without clinging. Each day becomes richer, each moment more vivid. The fear fades, replaced by gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful responses to death. Knowing that time is short, we give thanks for each sunrise, each meal, each smile. We stop waiting for perfect conditions and instead appreciate what is here. Gratitude turns fear into wonder. It transforms death from an enemy into a teacher. Each moment becomes precious because it may be our last. Each act of kindness becomes urgent because tomorrow is not promised. Gratitude allows us to live fully before death comes, so that when it does, we have no regrets. Forgiveness is another gift of facing death. When we remember that life is fragile, grudges lose their grip. We ask ourselves, if I died tomorrow, would I want to leave with this anger in my heart? Often, the answer is no. Death awareness encourages us to forgive quickly, to love deeply, to speak the words we might otherwise postpone. It strips away the trivial and leaves only what matters. Forgiveness is not only for others, it is for ourselves too. Facing death, we see that self-blame is a heavy burden we need not carry. We let go, and in letting go, we find peace. Death also teaches us equality. No matter our wealth, status, or power, death comes to all. Kings and beggars, saints and sinners, all meet the same end. This truth humbles us. It reminds us that pride is foolish, that clinging to status is empty. It invites us to treat all beings with respect, because all share the same fate. This equality dissolves barriers and opens the heart to compassion. We see that we are not separate tribes, but one human family walking together toward the same horizon. For those who fear the unknown, Buddhist wisdom offers a gentle perspective. We do not need to know exactly what happens after death to find the peace. It is enough to see the truth of impermanence, to live well in this moment, to trust the flow of life. The Buddha often refused to answer questions about what lies beyond death, not because he did not know, but because the real question is how we live now. If we live with mindfulness, compassion, and non-attachment, death will not be a terror. It will simply be the next step in the journey. One of the most comforting teachings is that love does not die. When someone we love passes, their body is gone, but their influence remains. We carry their smile in our memory, their lessons in our actions, their presence in our hearts. In this way, they live on. Death cannot erase love. it can only transform it. And when we ourselves die, the love we gave will continue in those we touched. This continuity brings peace. It reminds us that while bodies pass, love endures. In the end, death is not a problem to solve, but a reality to embrace. It is the final reminder that everything is temporary, and therefore everything is precious. The Buddha taught that the best way to prepare for death is to live so fully, so mindfully, so compassionately, that when death comes, there is nothing unfinished. No unspoken love, no unresolved anger, no wasted days. To live in this way is to die without regret. As we close this final doorway, we see the thread that has run through them all. Stress, money, relationships, anxiety, loneliness, anger, attachment, addiction, grief, and death. They are all teachers. Each one points us back to the same truth, that suffering arises from clinging and forgetting, and freedom arises from awareness and letting go. The path of the Buddha is not a path of escape from life. It is a path of embracing life fully, with clarity, compassion, and courage. We have walked through the struggles of modern existence, and at each step, Buddhist wisdom has offered a light. Now, as we stand at the end, we carry these lights with us. We know that pain will still come, but we also know that freedom is possible in every moment. Death itself, once feared as the end, is revealed as part of the great flow, part of the dance of impermanence. To live with this understanding is to live in peace. To die with this understanding is to die in peace.